We felt them for,
This-
it seemed like a week.
It's nothing like the typhus vaccine. You just as soon die.
Oh, don't you get that?
Typhoid fever.
Oh.
Oh man, when I got that, that was before I went chilling.
The needle's about that big around.
Well, no, that's a kind of glove.
So you
You got
injured?
a quarter
Oh, yeah.
3 months when you were down there.
Yeah.
Lump, when they pulled the needle out, you had the lump and you had to kind of rub that peanut butter in.
Yeah, I had the peanut butter shot is what they called it.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one it was, but they called it the peanut butter shot and it felt like they squirted peanut butter in it.
Well, we had a first several times we had a nurse that gave it to us. But then the nurse went home and I had the misfortune of my office was right here. And
I
the
didn't,
mission president, his
but I didn't
office
look
was
for it
right
either.
here.
Okay.
And I sat and watched her practice on an orange. And then her look up and say,
I
Elder
sent the
Woodward.
email and, but I sent to your.
I got to be the first experience.
Yeah,
And
that's what I sent to them.
I still remember
But it
that
just has
first
your line
experience.
information that
Did you say
were
you
able
was
to
in
get
Chile?
support.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
And so if you check that out, you.
Yep,
could
I made
follow
it.
that, and it should be.
Clear down to Magellan Straits.
My nephew there, he
How
can't
come
come
we just-
home, so
You can't come home? Is he in
So
Chile?
just cheat.
been there for a year.
It's
all right, huh?
Where's that?
I don't know what part of Chile he's in. Oh, he's stuck here.
You're not letting him come
Not
home.
let him come home. Uh-huh.
Yeah, Chile's had a pretty rough time.
Yeah, he can't even hardly get around, leave the apartment. I mean, he's pretty much just, because he's not a citizen.
Pretty rough
Throw
going.
your papers anywhere, Deb.
Yeah, Jeff, just make yourself at home. will you? Okay, well, you ready yet, Darren?
Yep.
I mean, Jeff decided why in the world even come, because Darren will be late.
What he's done, Derek's-
Okay, we're ready.
All right,
Make it happen.
welcome. It is January 12th, 2021, 3:31 in the afternoon. We have all board members present, along with the superintendent and business office administrator, and several most illustrious administrators here with us. We're in our working session of our regularly scheduled board meeting, and we're going to dive in. We're going to talk about the capital outlay projects. As Lee knows, she's back there going, as Jeff and I did the tour this last month of all the capital outlay projects that have been proposed. But before we get there, will you give us a quick update about how constructions are going with our 3 different sites that have construction going on now associated with the bond?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Darren take this one.
Yeah, of course, with Helper, the focus right now is on design, and with the intent to put the first bid package out at the end of January, is that right, Pierre?
Yeah, they want to do the excavation part probably the end of the month and then the rest of it probably 2 or 3 weeks later.
So we're getting close to the first bid package, which will be some groundwork and.
Okay, I just lost something in that
Yeah,
translation.
Yeah,
You're gonna put the bid package out at the end of the month, but then they're gonna do the excavation at the end of the month?
No, the excavation bid will be out at the end.
oh,
of
the
month.
bid, not the work.
Okay.
Okay, because I
Okay.
understood the work too.
It will hit the street, as they say.
So are we not gonna have a general contractor who's doing the whole, or are you gonna put it out to general contractors and let them?
Yeah, so with
Get a
Hogan is our
subcontract.
general contractor,
Okay.
and they can bid on some of the specific pieces of work. I think, are they doing or will they be bidding on the excavation, you know?
No, I don't think they do that type of work.
So, but when you have a general contractor who's a contract or a construction manager as well, if they choose to bid on any of the work, they have to submit their bid just like any of the subs. But I don't suspect they'll do the excavation. They did, have been doing a few parts of like they did the steel work with the the high school, right?
Well, they did the concrete.
Oh, concrete. So, but they'll put it out in January and we should see, work going pretty soon after that. And meanwhile, the building will continue in design, the final details that they do before that portion of the bid package goes out. So, so Helper will get going pretty quick. We talked on Thursday with Hogan, with John, from Hogan, who, said that the bidding environment is still really, really favorable. And they're hoping for some excellent bid numbers as we go out to bid this spring and in January. The bus garage out here had been waiting on the installation of the lift, bus lift kit. And then once that's installed, which it is now, they will come in and pour the floor and begin doing some of the work on the inside of that building. So, so that'll be coming up here soon in the next week or two. And the high school is marching along, but it's fun to go over each week and get a little tour of where they're at and see the walls come up. And
So when is that tour usually scheduled?
so we meet Thursdays at 9 o'clock for a construction meeting, and then usually that's an hour and a half or so, and then we go and walk the sites after that.
So any two at a time are more than welcome to go over and particularly the walkthrough part to see what's happening with them.
Yeah.
Just coordinate that through the superintendent so
Yeah,
that we
just
don't
let me
get
know.
more than two of us at the same time
Yeah.
showing up.
Yeah, it's generally about 10:30. Sometimes the meeting portion runs longer than others, so yeah, if you let us know ahead, we can kind of tip you off at the right time to arrive. So, but it's cool to see. They've got most of the wall framing up. I think they're bringing in start sheetrocking fairly soon. Next week, and then they've been doing the roof membrane, getting it dried in, and a little bit of work on the existing school on the inside where the CAD lab is. They've kind of prepped some areas there so that they can move into those renovations as soon as they are able to, but not much has gone on the inside of the building yet, on the old section. But things are progressing well on the addition.
Okay. And bus garage?
So that was just waiting on the floor now that the lift cassette is in, the bus lift.
And when?
What's that?
When?
Oh, so probably next week. Have you heard when they scheduled the cement before?
I think it was next week.
Because they set, this last week, they set the cassette part that goes in the ground, and now they can pour the floor up level to that, and then they'll start working on framing in the little parts room and office bathroom and the small rooms that they have in there. So they're getting close on that. You've noticed, maybe you haven't, but if you've noticed on the south side of our building, the back side, there's some work going on in the parking lot to bring the power across that back parking area that buses will pull up to and be able to plug in the buses, and of course the light poles that are in there. But that is being done by Bodak right now.
So I have another question on Helper. So what has been done so far? Really nothing? I mean, are they,
We have the bus lane was put in, of course, as you know, and then they have done work in the gym on the heating and cooling unit. They had to do some framework to support that, and I believe that's up, right? Is that correct, Carrie?
So it's just been designed and now ready for bid.
Yeah, the design work has pretty much concluded from my understanding, and they're putting it together in a format that people can bid on, so they have to break out every individual piece. And that's what will go out toward the end of the month, and
so what we've seen is what they're bidding on. I mean, that's the plan they.
That's,
designed.
yeah,
Yeah,
now they've got it designed to the point they can put it out.
Okay, so that is what.
Yeah, we've seen the
the de-
design.
That is the same design, and they haven't changed anything.
No, they just get more detailed in all the specifications that,
Like what kind of molding are we gonna have? What kind of, yeah, all the sinks and, all that stuff. So that's the part that takes forever, I think.
The finishes and.
yeah. Any other questions on the bond?
Okay, let's move in. Let's get going here.
Okay, we thought with this first, look at the projects that we would take a little more time, maybe for Melissa and Keith's sake, as this is their first time going through this. Just as an update on what this is, each year through our capital outlay allotment that we get through property taxes, we ask principals and department heads to submit project requests to be performed during the next school year. And then we review those requests, get some estimates, and the board will help us in setting a budget of how much we're able to do in a given year. But for the next couple of months, we'll review these projects, get any questions that we have answered about the projects, and then usually in March, we'll set the cutoff line to say, these are the ones we'll do, and these are the ones we'll hold off on. So, what Lance has brought up here is the prior years, and the ones I've highlighted in red are the projects that still have some work to be done or are in process. And so maybe let's highlight or go through each of those. The first one here is the football field announcers booth. So that one was, we were concerned, we did start that a little bit later than we had hoped or should have, and we got concerned we wouldn't have it completed by the time football started, so we held off starting that construction. Carrie was just updating me on that.
Supposed to start in a couple of weeks.
Couple weeks to get that underway.
The contractor's holding his bid. Everybody's good with keeping the same amount then?
Yeah, who is doing that? Is that
Stilson.
Stilson?
Still some construction out of Castledale?
Yeah, so they'll be going forward with that. The AC units in the gym, of course, that was a big topic of conversation in the fall. We had approved that a while ago, but the power requirements for those units, once we started the bond, the upgrading of the power is being done by the bond, by Hogan, and that kind of put those on hold a little bit, but that work has been going forward. You've probably seen on the basketball, or the gym on the south of the new gym, the south side, they've kind of constructed or are starting to construct a little outbuilding that's attached to the side of that. That's an electrical room that's tied into that power upgrade. And as they complete that, then all the units are waiting to just be placed on top of the,
Is that
On top of
both
the gym.
gyms or just one gym?
yeah, all the whole school now is going to be through heated and AC, and so both gyms will have AC in them. This project was specific to the new gym, but the old gym will through the bond have that as well. So that should be done, probably will be completed around April.
So we're still
Before it gets hot.
taking this cost though out
Yeah.
of capital
Yeah,
projects.
so this was for the units themselves,
Okay.
and they're just waiting.
We can't transfer that to the bond.
You could, we
We're
had
just back in
approved it out of capital, and it would just eat up more of our bond
Yeah, I'm
funds.
not sure I want to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Until we know what the bids come in at Helper, we don't really, it wasn't contemplated in the bond when we, because we had already approved it at that time. Let's see, you want to scroll down to our next. The bleachers in the new gym on that north side, Norcon, that has been bid, and Norcon is the company that will be installing those. Again, it's with basketball season going on. I think, did they give you a time on that? I think it's just gonna be right at the end of basketball season that they'll pull them out and put the new ones in, right?
They won't be ready until March.
Oh, that long in the production?
Do we remember what their bid came in as about?
One,
140
Well,
something.
it's a bit higher than that estimate.
Like 50%?
Yeah. Yeah, so that one's a little bit higher. But as you'll see, we'll scroll down here, we'll see where we're coming out on in total cost. So in the softball fields, we have met with the county and talked about some improvements to make at the softball field. We're having Jones and DeMille design some, the engineering behind the dugouts to enclose the dugouts. And then the county is really wanting us to work with them on putting shade structures over the spectator areas for both for shade, but more for the safety of all the foul balls that get popped back into where people are walking around. And so those are some of the things we're looking at. We don't have bids yet on those shade structures or on the dugouts to know how much we'll be able to do or to work with them on, but those are the two main improvements that are being looked at there.
I have a bit of a concern because I know it used to be that you had a certain structure out there with Little League fields, and so many of them got directed because the foul ball went into and then down onto the spectators. And so we got to be careful, make sure that we're not causing ourselves a problem just because we want to work with the county.
Yeah, that as far as where the ball lands and then it funnels off.
Yeah, right.
And where is it landing when it ultimately lands?
Correct.
Yeah, that'll have to be looked at. And then the last one is one that, as we did get bids, final bids, the original estimate, what we had approved was $10,000 to replace the cabinetry in that band room. And that estimate came from the school. As they looked around, they thought they had a source that they knew what it would cost, and then when they got the actual bids, it's much higher than that. And so we just decided to hold off since the bid was over 30,000. And so we told the school to hold off on that one, and we would bring it back this year because it is so much higher. And so we have that, you'll see that on
yours is less
this
than
year's
yours.
capital outlay. When we went around, Wayne and Jeff, and reviewed the list, I didn't have that one on. I had actually forgotten about it until they reminded me. They didn't put it in new request because they knew it was in the pending status. So I've added that one to the list. So far what was approved was $1,361,000, and what so far has been spent is the $841,000. Then those projects that are in process, based on their estimated cost, would be around $390,000. So our anticipation is finishing the year at $1,251,000.
Does that include the band? Yeah, the ones,
Says zero on the band.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Zero
So-
in spent, but it includes what was in the estimate side of that.
But it's still off that 20,000 or whatever.
So it's
Yeah, that's true. So
1.36.
the estimate has 10,000 in there. And actually, since that will be on this next year's, I should be taking that out altogether,
But you did include the extra.
but I did include
40,000
that
on the other one.
10,000 in the estimate, so it'll actually, but then as was mentioned, the bleachers are, the bid came in at 30,000 over, so it actually would have another 20,000 in there, so 1,251,000 estimated total final.
If we included the Mount Harmon band stuff. Okay. All right.
So with the current years, if you want to bring that up, Superintendent, we wanted to take a little more time to just go through each school's request. We'll review the request one by one and give you a chance to ask any questions. looks like only Keith's here to advocate for his projects. So, he's got a leg up on everyone, but,
He's always trying to get a leg up on everyone.
Then following this meeting today, what I'll do is I'll send each of you a Google survey type, a Google form with each of these projects. And again, for the new members, what we've done is ask the principals to rank or prioritize the projects in their minds, what are their higher priorities. And then we take the board and have the board, just based on their feel and from the discussion, how important you feel each project is. We have you rank them 1 through 5. And we've also done an administrative ranking where we take into account building maintenance and upkeep, that might rank high if it's something that's really needing to be done. So we take those 3 priorities, the board, the principals, and the administration, we kind of average those to get a final ranking. So those most important projects come to the top.
So is the 5 the most important?
Yes,
You were
5
going 5
are the
to 1,
highest
okay.
priority. And so we'll send that out to you. So between now and the next board meeting, we'd ask that you take some time to review those projects, give it your feeling on rank. And if you have any questions during that process, feel free to call the principals or whoever submitted that, ask any questions about it, and get a feel where you think that priority is.
Last year, you changed the ranking and put ours separate also. You
Yeah,
had done
so
it and then you
showed
did us
ours.
a separate.
Yeah, so I can show a column for each, and then the average ranking, so you can kind of view where principals.
We can decide if
But-
we want some weighting to the.
So you did it average and then
Oh.
you did us separate, remember? Okay.
Yeah, I'll
Talk like an 800-pound gorilla.
That's right.
Then each of the 3 rankings, and then we can decide how we want to.
That's in my car. I meant to bring it in. That's sitting right in my driver's.
So let's start off then with Grove Point. As with all of the schools, let's see, sorry, let me go to the top. They've requested wood chips in the playgrounds. We have determined that wood chips is our substrate of choice.
Okay.
And we are making a concerted effort to go through each school and update what they have. So they're proposing to take some out. They have pea gravel right now, don't they? Or-
They have some wood chip out there too.
But this
All
is,
wood chip.
this is just update, this is just,
Yeah, it says it's thinning out.
Yeah,
oh,
because they
yeah,
have wood chip out there.
Yeah.
Each year, we should bring in.
Well, theirs
See
was
what's
looking
there,
pretty
and that's
thin
what we're-
when I was.
Okay, yeah.
Darren, who's doing the estimating? So just on the first.
Oh,
one?
yeah, good point. So this, we just asked as principals submitted theirs, to just give us your best guess. Sometimes it's things like if it's desk or thing, they have a pretty good source to know exactly what the cost is. Others, it's just a shot in the dark. So right now, this has not been vetted at all. This is just kind of what they think. Then over the next couple of months, as we review them, there'll be certain ones that if there's an interest in pursuing it, we'll go and get a better estimate, a better bid on it, and update that cost to get it as close as we can. Initially, we try not to go through and get bids on a lot of things that may never get done because it's hard on contractors to give all these bids and then.
Well, thanks for asking those guys.
So we have some time, we have a couple of months to follow up on some of these. And your ranking will help us kind of see what's rising to the top to know, okay, we need to get a little better number on this item or that. Carpet is one that we'll do a district-wide carpet bid. She's placed that on here, but generally we work with each principal to identify several rooms that will be updated with new carpet. Playground equipment. So do you know where this one was? Do you remember which side of the building?
No, I don't know that we actually spoke with her about this.
We need to go out.
So we can clarify, but again, we have tried to, as equipment gets older. I remember talking about it being taken out. I can't remember
It
specifically
was,
which
wasn't
area
it
it was,
over
but,
by the south?
but it was old metal, equipment that was taken out and then nothing was put
I
back
think
in its
that's what it
place.
was
So
out
Oh,
there.
so
on that
they're,
south
they're
end.
wanting to update, but I don't remember which, playground it's on, which
It was
grades.
on the south.
Yeah, I think it was down at the south there.
And then a request for security cameras. You'll see, as with every year, there's quite a few requests for additions or updates to security systems, security cameras. Any questions on Broom Point? With Castle Heights, we did go and see if you're not familiar with them, in the kindergarten rooms, there are reading pits or the classroom pits that are kind of recessed stairways. And they do not use them the way I think they maybe
Those are
hoped
really
when they were
old.
built. And then there have been some issues. A little bit of a trip and fall hazard, and it takes up classroom space that could be used other ways. The pits in Wellington and in Creekview have been filled in. And just at Wellington?
Just one side.
Just one side.
Oh, just
Because of the
one.
wheelchairs.
Have they not
The
in
other
Creekview?
side still has the.
Yeah, Penry still has.
They don't use them as a pit like they did when I was in kindergarten.
Okay.
So mostly just a annoying storage area.
Yeah,
So,
and that's kind of what it is.
so the only one that's been filled in is just
Yes,
a
it's
wood cap though, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, we're not talking.
we're not talking concrete.
No,
Concrete
it's
to
just
fill it in.
wood and
Just so they
carpet.
could get a wheelchair in.
Yeah,
When you walk on it, it sounds hollow.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. Security cameras, they know their systems better than I do, but, then the storage room, what they're proposing is in that main foyer. Yeah, I guess her reference to the fishbowl, that's her fish pond. I don't know how better to describe it, but if you're familiar with that little recessed area, as you walk into your left in their Castle Heights foyer, that they're proposing to try to capture that area to provide some type of storage room. So that's where Creekview is a little bit different. They have a storage room in that general area that's been built in, but I think that was original to the building.
So I think it's also important to note at this point that in the original list, there was an item to update cabinets in classrooms, which has been deleted.
Yeah, if you remember, I had stuck that in because we were trying to do that in every building, and I thought, oh, she just forgot to ask for it. Then as we went and visited, she said, ours are all done. So I thought,
Yeah.
oh, whoops, I got ahead of her.
So-
So I took that back off. So they had finished theirs in the last round, so all of the
Okay.
classrooms there have new cabinetry. Now, they did point out to us in the kindergarten room while we were there, there's a storage room between the two kindergarten classrooms, and they have some cabinetry there that is older. She didn't put it on this list, but there still is some cabinetry, but that's more storage closet stuff. Okay, so Castle Valley
It's a
Center,
big ticket
where
item.
we sold the business, the wood shop, trophy and plaque business, and that area has been cleaned out, and it's now just a vacant, open space. Do you remember, we had considered taking this off because we weren't quite in a position to determine the direction that they wanted to go in the design. She had initially put it on because she thought she needed to get it in for approval, get something on here, but she doesn't quite know what she wants yet.
Well, go ahead.
We were kind of a consensus that we didn't know what
Yeah,
was going to be the most appropriate thing to do with that area at this particular time, so.
And I know she recognizes that, so if we were to just pull it off, she would understand that's what we're waiting to kind of see the outcome of where we're going to be with that adult program. Yeah.
And that was the two-pronged problem is, one, where's the program going to go? And two, before we can determine what the dollar amount is, we got to have somebody look at it
Yeah, do some.
and determine, yeah. So we're gonna have to, and perhaps what we do is make a decision where the adult program's gonna go, the direction of it, and then we authorize the expenditure for architects to look at the project.
Put together, yes, and design that can then be approved.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. Playground equipment, there.
So we're at 90,000, where's our limit that we have to use an architect?
Actually, I don't know that there's a requirement that we have to use an architect.
Didn't we used to have that?
I think at over 125,000, if we do use design professionals, there's a special bidding, there's a way to go through that bidding process.
We don't
but
have, I
but-
thought we had,
I thought there was something in state code that required
yeah.
us to do that if it's over a certain dollar amount.
Carrie, are we remembering wrong or?
I know there's an $80,000, but I don't know if that has to do with architects or if that has to do with bidding it out.
Davis-Bacon
No,
falls in there
so-
somewhere.
That,
We don't
that's
have
tied to
data.
federal wages.
Yeah, we don't have
We don't have to
state
do that.
requirements because they're not too bad.
Oh, man, I thought that was just maybe
Um,
some bacon that came from.
Up in Ogden.
Anytime we have a bigger project, we have involved either Jones and DeMille as an engineering firm or the architects just to help us.
We better
work
double
through
check
it.
that, because
But
there's something really tugging at me saying that we had so big, we were required to have an architect, and we groaned and mumbled
We'll
because
see
that
what's
added
the money.
cost to.
I think with this one, we had thought that we would get some design help, so we're not planning to not do it in this one, so.
Okay. I just don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see, their playground equipment, their swings have been very popular, and they would like to add an additional swing set, and some other playground equipment with that.
These are big swings.
Yeah, these are
These are, that'll hold like two of us at the same time kind of swings.
for the wheelchair.
The tri-track was an interesting one. They have the big tricycles, which are very popular, and they feel that there would be a lot of demand to have kind of like walkways throughout their grass area that more around the perimeter that students could ride those trikes on and have some stop signs and some yield signs and different things. And while we were out there looking at it, there was at least one student who was walking his faces around where this track would be. It was a good example of what some of those students really need and would like to have. So
Our concern was $10,000 would get about a foot and a half of that track done. What are we gonna do for the rest?
yeah, so
This needs to be 6 feet wide,
two-way track.
and it's gonna be a few thousand feet, so that price is not nearly,
Yeah,
maybe a fifth, maybe a tenth of what it needs to be.
Yeah, so this is when we can definitely start working on getting. some-
Why didn't we let them? You were the one that put that.
Yeah, well, no, I think this, as far as Jeff and I look at it, falls in that, man, that really would be nice, but
That's a lot of money.
Let's get a good
it's one of
price.
those that would be nice areas.
We'll follow up.
Because
on this.
it would, I think there'd be benefit there. Cost benefit is gonna be it.
So, with Creekview, Keith, do you remember, how close are we to finishing up the classes that you have in that bid?
We've only done 6.
Got 2 years left to go, so this would be, this is generally what we've spent to do.
Some of them have new
23.
counters and not new cabinets, and that's been the case. They put new cabinets in and salvaged the counter and put it back on. And that's what's allowed us to get a little further than we originally thought, so they've been really good.
Part of your phone?
Working with that. throwing them all
Something
away.
else. Just snap.
So we've generally allotted about $20,000, and sometimes that's in two,
Someone said
sometimes three
something.
classrooms.
I've done 3 both years, but it's because both of them have had at least one counter that's been salvaged each time, so it depends on how that went as we, went on.
Dedicated
And the
student.
biggest thing, I don't know, I know they saw it, but they're breaking it from 4 sections into 5. That's what the teachers love the most, instead of 4 huge cabinet doors that's what usually breaks versus they're so heavy, they're going to 5 smaller sections. And the teachers love those smaller sections.
Maybe you would be a good one to talk about your student drop off and parking requests, if you want to give a pitch for that.
There's nothing I hear about more in any given week than the safety issues that go on after school there. There's at least a parent every week coming in to tell me about some car that almost hit somebody, and a lot of that is the way it's set up right now. They have to cross the pickup zone to get to the parking spot. So if they're parking and coming up to pick up a kindergartner per se, they're crossing the path of all the other cars. But if the cop would just sit across the street every day, everything would be fine. But when they're not there, they do whatever they want in the parking lot. And so we just would like to have a parking lot
Come move
and a
south.
drop-off zone that are separate places that are dedicated to those things. And we think it would improve the safety, the locality of things.
Common point.
There's not been any design work on this, but if there was an
It
interest,
would be in this field that honestly, we don't use as a school at all. I mean, it's so far away that the kids at recess we don't want them that far. And the community uses it less and less all the time as it used to be a big place for soccer and things, but now everything's moved to the fairgrounds and we see
So
an
how would-
occasional.
How would you do this? Right now, that part, yeah.
We want that parking lot to become the student drop-off and pickup.
Or
Closest to the
just
school.
Just a roundabout kind of thing.
Kind of like a bus circle, but it'd be, and then a sidewalk that would go all the way however far we went. So when they get out of the parking lot, there'd be a sidewalk to get to that would feed them to the
And then
school.
move the parking over to there.
It'd be over here. And the thing is, we're kind of in a weird dead end. And so like when we have an event, like I look at, my kids used to go to Castle Heights. You can park in all the neighborhoods. There really is nowhere to go. I mean, they're over there in the church parking lot, but sometimes our events coincide with their events, and pretty soon there is absolutely nowhere to park. And so they're blocks and blocks away, or parking illegally, or doing whatever they want to do,
Portion of that, how much money?
which this year hasn't been, we don't have any events that we bring people to.
Yeah.
But normally we have,
And you will again.
we will.
it is nice in Creekview's case that they have the space to have additional parking out front and not really lose anything from what they utilize in the playground. It's, with Castle Heights, they just don't have that space out in the front. So we put the one in the back.
And I've been in that parking lot before, taking or picking up my grandson and, just to even get into the parking lot, it's kind of hard with a bigger vehicle, to get into a spot and then,
Well, I've been out there, there's only 26 parking stalls right now to leave room for,
For school.
which that's like one volunteer per classroom and we're full. I mean, so even a normal,
It is
the
the most.
normal day in
limited-
elementary school, you can have a couple volunteers at a time in several classrooms, and it's just, there's nowhere.
It is, I believe, the most limited parking of any of our
Yes.
schools, with potentially the exception of Bruins Point, that doesn't quite need as much, so.
and your teachers and staff are all parking
We,
on the
we,
side.
we
and
ask
back.
them all to park in the back and on the side, so we leave all of the,
That's true.
we have one employee who parks in the handicapped in the front, and that's the only person that parks in there.
If there's interest in this project, this is one, if we start right away, we could get some good estimates before we get to the
Get done
approval.
this summer without a problem.
I mean, the question is how big to make it and how much of the field to take up.
Yeah.
And my only suggestion would be if we don't do the whole thing in parking, that we don't leave grass. I think we do some kind of zero scape, you know, zero,
Yeah, that's
something that, it doesn't make sense to leave a small strip of grass
zero.
over there, but, you know, some other kind of rocks or
Zero
something
scape,
that.
zero scape.
Yeah, 0 cents. Yeah, zero scape, that's what we want to put there, zero scape.
But it's something that, I mean, you know, the architects who looked at Helper, I would never have thought of a bus drop off like that.
Yeah,
They come up with that and I thought that was just amazing.
yeah.
I don't know
Could
that,
you utilize those people with
Yeah, I
just
think
giving an idea?
that's what we would have to
Yeah,
approve
we would
first.
definitely get this designed and get some ideas out there.
So you
Yeah.
thought that was amazing? That was my idea, I called you.
He's dreaming
I
again.
think we
I
could
guess
have
we could lie on this for
some.
that.
There would still need to be some final design before bidding, but we could have some pretty good ideas of cost and plan before March. Creekview is requesting a digital marquee out in front of where their non-digital marquee currently is.
With the caveat, if we do the parking lot, we would
Probably place it.
move it and put it where people would drive by it a little more often. It makes sense to move it in, if we're adding something.
Okay, moving along, we've got sound system in the auditorium here. Any questions on that? Kind of self-explanatory, they're just old systems that have been there.
Throw away the
Yeah,
old.
John
I've
Thomas
been there
has had
too.
this on
It-
their
Throw away the old
Now,
systems.
now, as I looked at that, it really comes down to an issue of operator error with that. And Keith won't argue with me, I don't think,
I don't know how
because,
to use the thing.
see, there we go, right? That was my point, is it is as complicated, I mean, it's an old
We had
board
years
with
ago, we
knobs
had-
and sliders and
Yeah, we had no
equalizer,
come
yeah.
in for both Creekview and Castle Heights, and this is many years ago, and he got it all readjusted and somewhat working. I think we had to put new speakers in Castle Heights. Yours are,
And then Keith came in and started twisting the knobs and.
but I think we're done
Pushing
with that
buttons.
equipment now.
Pushing buttons.
So I was threatened by the secretary, we just don't touch anything, and we just hope it works. So that's the plan, so.
Governmental schools requesting a four-wheeler. Actually, all of our schools now have a four-wheeler except Helper. So
Now they've got a pretty bus lane that they need to push.
yeah, they have some areas.
So if you have more concrete, it causes more snow?
If that's the case, let's cover all of that.
Yeah, let's start covering concrete now.
Get a good year if you have concrete?
They're asking for a floor scrubber, that's fairly common, they don't have a right on it all, but again, that's, most of our schools do have one. And I think that's a good purchase for their school. Stage curtain, so, anybody else can overrule me here, but I was thinking from our discussion, we agreed with these requests, but with the timing, we kind of talked about holding off on it. Is that
There is
right?
no ifs, ands, and buts that curtain needs to go.
Yes,
Yes, they
Period.
have needed that for
Yeah,
years.
and I think we've said that for 2 or 3 years in a
Yes.
row here. But
But I thought, not this time, but the time before, we said, we know we're gonna be remodeling this school. Let's replace them with the bond. Is
We
that,
did, we
okay,
did. So I was
We-
kind
we
of
can
surprised
pull
to
that
see
in-
that
in
show
the
back
bond.
up again.
and I was just thinking, we didn't want to put new ones up while construction was about to take
No,
place.
for sure.
But they will get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, well, and we certainly could, well, when we see the bids, we could work these in to the bond funds, and we may or may not bring it up in the future, if it's taken care of through the bond.
and I think at that point, if we don't have room in the bond, then we bring it back for
Yeah.
capital.
Yeah, we'll just put on hold, but they're looking at stage lighting, curtains, and, painting that stage area in the back, so I put a hold on each of those. A new refrigerator for the fax lab. Just because of age, the other one's quite old.
Oh, yes.
Okay, going down to maintenance. Maintenance is requesting a mini excavator based on the amount of times that they have been renting one.
What did we buy last year?
Any comments on that? We did the skid steer.
Skid steer last year.
Oh, okay, 2 years ago was a backhoe there, or 3 years ago, whatever it was.
They both paid for themselves in rental fees. And we're planning that the mini excavator would do the same thing.
Have we looked at a lease?
We have, at one point, we were able to lease a backhoe for a little over $1,000 a year. The next year, that went up to $12,000 a year. Yeah. So we backed away because we figured we could purchase one and then 7 or 8 years.
So the backhoe.
We could
What
bring,
we
we
do
can
with
bring
the
lease
excavator.
numbers. We'll find
Not
sales
in every
numbers and
case.
lease numbers for this before the,
Because the mini,
Next
it's
full
tracked,
meeting.
but also it's very much smaller.
so we can look at both of those options.
Look at it anyway.
You have a 180-degree.
The next, and then forklift, we have had a
A lot
forklift
more
there,
versatile.
it's quite old, and, anyway, so just a request for a forklift.
So the price of that for a Mini X, 45,000, is that a used one?
No, that's new.
It is, huh?
Do you know the size of it? Is it like a 205? Is it a,
I don't
It's the
remember.
little one.
It's a
It's a
Bobcat.
mini.
yeah, but there's mini and then it's like really mini.
A Tonka toy. No, it's not a Tonka toy. It's a mid-sized, it's not really big, but it's.
Even like a John Deere
it's a
30C or something like that. In
The
that range.
Bobcat, you said?
Uh-huh. I think the one we spec'd out was like I had one of my guys do it.
Do you think the price is too low, Jeff?
Yeah, I think it's gonna come in above 45,000,
Like
Again,
I said,
that-
depends on the size.
depending on the size. Yeah,
If
exactly.
he had a particular model in mind, we'll
We
bring some,
did get a quote.
we'll bring some lease information, and then we'll bring the specs, just to see what we're looking at for the next meeting. So Mount Harmon has some,
But yeah, you gotta get approved.
big requests. And some of these are kind of up in the air as what needs to be done. They've identified a problem here, but we don't necessarily know what the solution to this is. But in the gym, the floor of the gym, has been moving and kind of heaving. And, as he says here, the bleachers are not extending out and there's some other issues with it. We have some suspicion that that's being caused by leaks in the fire loop.
That's a
And
possibility.
so we are, not through our capital outlay, but just through maintenance and trying to repair things, we are looking into repairs that need to be done there. Any update on that fire loop?
I think what
What does that mean?
we talked today,
Around the
I
building, there's a
think
fire
what we're
line,
going to do is we're going to hire
but it's been in 60s, 70s.
company
And when it leaks, it just leaks under the ground.
and drill
That's
some
gonna cause a bunch of
test
stuff.
holes
That's what that room's are.
for
They
water
think, or they think maybe, but
and
at the high school, they
monitor
were
that
where
for
a whole bunch of water kept
see.
running out of the football
Figure
field
that if
and then
it's
down on the
seasonal,
baseball.
if we get higher
When they
levels
finally
of
got the
water,
fixed,
uh,
they quit. It's
then
like,
it's
hey,
probably
the spring goes away.
groundwater. But if it's constant, it could either be the fire roof, it may even be Tri-Cities line that's up above it. So before we jump in and do a whole bunch of fixes, we want to take care of the problem and we can fix it so we don't have to do it twice.
There's no way to stick a meter on their monitor to find out.
There is, and that's one of the things we're looking at doing.
But even
Seems a
that's
little
quite
expensive.
expensive, right? I mean,
Yeah, 10,000, 15,000.
It's not too expensive.
It's not like
Comparatively.
bringing a company in to drill boreholes.
Yeah.
They told us it would be about $1,000 per hole. That was just a guesstimate. We figured that we would need at least 7 holes.
So we thought, I think our discussion was before looking at fixing, or let's first determine where the issue's coming
The
from.
problem is,
Once that's been fixed, then we can look at how to then repair and replace things. So I think we were looking at holding on this particular request while we investigate further. We had an opportunity to walk around with Seth and look at the lunchroom, and the proposal there is to come out the front of the building where, oh yeah. So in that, just outside of the lunchroom, in that alcove, determining some way to enclose that and provide additional lunchroom seating area in that space.
There are doors already right here, so the cafeteria where the kids sit is right here. And this would add a lot more seating, almost double the seating that's available to the students.
So put a roof over it?
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Would that
just
be hard to-
enclose.
No, because they're already bearing walls on on all three sides. You put up one wall and,
The drain line, huh?
And the
Will
idea would
be-
be a lot of glass, so there'd be a lot of lighting coming in from that side, so you could really, have an enclosed roof.
It would be an expensive project, but we don't know really anything on cost yet. But that's something we can begin to investigate. Seth put a number like 800,000, but he got that number off of a per foot of new cost of new construction multiplied by the square footage. But we question whether that was really reasonable because you got 3 solid sides already built. So we just don't know what the cost
So
might
we're
be
putting
here.
floor, roof, and
But we wanted to show you the proposal anyway as we begin investigating this a little bit
this
more
would
to give you a better estimate.
Mhm.
I think we feel that there definitely is a need, but how to best address it. So here's the band storage that we talked about earlier. This should be a fairly good bid. It needs to be bid again, but that's where it came in last year, was just over 30,000, so we put it at 35. And this is just taking out all the existing cabinetry and putting new in. Sally Marl would also like to consider an expansion of their parking lot. This one's a little bit harder to describe. They don't have the nice convenient space right out in front of the building like Creekview. But they do have a fairly good sized playground in the back. It would cut into that playground, but Mr. Allen was explaining he doesn't feel that would really limit
Where are
their.
we at?
go
That's not right.
south, go south,
No,
go
other
south.
south.
There, right there, you just went past it.
Oh, there we are. Sorry,
Sorry.
lost it.
There's those funky looking buildings.
This is where we probably would need a bit of design help as well to figure out how buses and students or parent drop off maybe.
So
what does he want
What's
to do?
not so apparent here is where those trees are. That's a big hill
Right here.
going up.
Yeah,
That's
good
quite
size
an
hill.
elevation change right there.
Yeah,
And you want more parking, is that what you're saying?
And a better way to drop students off.
Okay.
yeah. And if there's interest in this might be one because of the elevations and this may be one we could take more time to look at different designs before committing to the project. If you wanted us to start.
But some of these we thought about, just on a 1 year approve the design costs or the, so that we wouldn't be approving the project, we would be approving, let's get all the details and design and that, which is going to cost some money, and then bring it back the next year and say, now that we know exactly, are we wanting to do that project? So almost a 2-year process on some of these.
Okay, let's move along. We've
Okay,
got,
yeah,
we're
we
in
got
trouble.
some things to do. So parking lot, cabinetry, they've done the 2 other pods and they've come out great. And would like to now do the final pod. I think you had a chance to see those. Wood chips again in the playground, and then he's asking to resurface the blacktop around their
Didn't that get done
playground.
just recently?
With the sinks, so in those pods, they did new cabinetry, new countertops, and then they put the old sinks back in. So.
And the old hardware and
The old
drains.
Yeah,
hardware,
and so
yeah.
I don't think
Looks
this would
really
even
good.
come up to $5,000, but, so they're looking to now, just put new in all of those, and, so that's what you're referring to. And then updating the hardware for the outside doors, the push bars and whatnot, just all around the building. We had a chance to walk through the cafeteria, and the lighting is quite dim, and so they would like to update
It's,
that with new fixtures.
it's horrible.
It's pretty bad. So,
It's not that there's not enough fixtures, though, it's just the style of lighting is what's bad.
yes.
Yeah, it's indirect, and it's just, there's not enough light in that.
And then he's wanting to go through and replace desk and chairs for, he's put $15,000 there. That won't do all of the teachers, so I think we just approve an amount and go as far as that amount would take them. With their oldest desks and chairs first. We're also requesting some custodial equipment. And, when we did their cooling systems, the only ones that weren't replaced were the ones over the administrative offices and the kitchen area, the kitchen multi-purpose rooms.
Because we didn't want that administrator just sitting in his
Yeah.
office or in the cafeteria.
They've got a swamp cooler over the admin. Do they have anything over the kitchen multi-purpose area?
There's a swamp cooler over the kitchen.
Swamp
Over
It's
there.
not multi-purpose.
No, we would propose to put some rooftop units on that area.
Now, we had a big deal with upgrading the power there in order to do it before. Are we gonna go through
Yeah,
that
did that
again?
upgrade, would that cover this addition?
I don't know. I haven't gotten into that far enough. No. I'm assuming so, but.
It was expensive, I know.
Yeah, it was a big upgrade, so our hope is it did, but we'd need to investigate that. And then he's requesting parking lot lights. This could be tied into, as we design the parking lot, that's going to need lights, and this could be looked at as one project, I think.
So it might be good to put an item in here of design that we could vote
Okay.
on as opposed to all of these
Okay. I'll do
design
that.
costs.
Wellington proceeding with their, again, the annual update of their older cabinets. And so again, a $20,000 estimate on that. They're requesting security cameras. The playground update that they're referring to is just a very small piece of equipment that's out on the front of the building. It's not a full playground, it's just a single apparatus out there right now, and like to keep that, but update it with something better.
What they're saying, they want it gone and put wood chips.
The one,
Two pieces taken.
that one is Head Start, and they're really don't meet the needs of that age group.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're saying.
And it's like a pedal thing that they ride.
Yeah,
like a
it's
circle
not
with a pedal
for-
through it, and then it's just.
Would she say to put something small back in its place, or just put wood chips for?
He said,
I
there
think
it just says put wood chips.
Okay.
I don't know where we're at.
I would think they would need something there though, some more equipment.
You're in Price.
Yeah,
Am I
here's
still,
the.
okay.
Are you looking for Wellington? There you go.
Oh, all right.
You need job teacher.
Okay, this is the spot here. This equipment right here is pretty much useless.
No, it's
Isn't it?
not. It's
Go-
those little pieces between the trees. You can't see it
Oh,
on Google Earth because Head Start just brought it and put it in the grass.
Oh, is it
Never
this
was
part right?
built in.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
So the grass is
Oh.
completely worn now from where the kids played, and it's just not.
So pull that
Okay.
out and extend the wood chips And the rest of
So
that is what
she
she's saying.
put in $3,000, but to extend wood chips out there, we're gonna be a little bit more, so we'll need to update that price, but that's the idea of what they're requesting there.
They do need equipment. They're also gonna-
She's, didn't she say something about they need more playground though? Like to order some stencils and paint and,
Well, she wants
Yeah.
to, now that there are other schools that have stencils for like Foursquare and things like that.
Yeah, that they can borrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's not requesting a new piece to be.
just something for
Put in there,
activities,
yeah.
yeah. It didn't look like they had enough there.
Then, like Sally Morrow, they're asking to go through and replace a number of their teacher desks and chairs. We really, in my time here, we really haven't in any of the schools done teacher desks and chairs that I can remember. Maybe an off one purchased here and there, but not as a whole section of the school. So I think they're probably all pretty old.
At Carbon
Carbon High too, yeah. Water bottle filling stations are the drinking fountains that have the water bottle fixture. They would like to start seeing some of those go in. We haven't used any, out of the schools, but we have an example here in the district office that we tested out. If you won't care to see what they're like. Sensors for science labs. They have existing sensors. I guess it's just an old system, and with any technology, it outdates fairly quickly. These are quite old though, but they just like to invest in a new set of these.
Yeah, this is actually
different
teaching,
sensors.
this is equipment to actually do teaching,
Yes,
so.
yes, for student sets.
And I have proposed that we usually have the opportunity to apply for some money through the Southeast Service Center. And they're, really technology focused, and I believe this would be a perfect thing to put in that request. If that were to happen, then we would be able to pull that off of the list.
As this next one, update stage lighting, this was not on the list when we walked through. Steve Pay had last year presented a 3-phase, some updates that could be done over 3 phases. Chris hadn't included it because he knew I already had it and I had forgotten about it. So I just stuck this one on. So this is new to Wayne and Jeff as well.
Now, wasn't the original proposal like $350,000?
Yeah, it was big. It was really big. And so,
Big difference between 350 and 50
Yeah.
here.
so these are what Steve calls
Some's
the
already
beam
done them.
lights, which are,
No,
as it
that's-
says,
We did the sound.
the lights in the ceiling of the auditorium that do the specialty lighting.
And we were up there last time we had a tech, changing a whole bunch of lights. And they're pretty old lights up there. That would be.
With all those lighting systems, they're fairly expensive. But this is a very good number. He has a specific quote from the vendor on these. So the last item is one that is a request from Price City. And this is just a discussion item for where the board would like to go with this. But the city would like to renovate their indoor pool, redo the pool itself, and then do some updates to the building. And I attached, you have the spreadsheet there that I attached. They sent this quote to us, and they're asking that the board consider if you're willing to partner with them on this. They have not asked for a specific amount. They would just like you first to consider your willingness to partner, and then for us to look at what we think is appropriate. And based on our participation, they'll see if they can make this work in their budget as well. And at a future meeting, if you'd like, we have some Price City officials come and speak to this.
Well, I think a question we need answered is, we partnered on the tennis courts. How has that worked out? I guess that's the question.
The partnership has been great. I mean, it was really just an initial investment and then working with them. And on the baseball fields, they've been wonderful to work with. And our use of those facilities, of course, we haven't had the baseball fields in a long time, but at least at the tennis courts, We have no problems with getting access when we
I'm
want.
really glad for your perspective, but the superintendents have to deal with pickleball and other things. Well, how's that been? How have they worked with what our needs are with the tennis court?
Tri-City puts our needs number one. First thing they do is they say, what do you need? And then they go from there. So they have been awesome.
But didn't we,
Sorry, Darren.
No, you're fine.
didn't we partner with the school about 8 years ago to remodel the pool then? That's when they put the liner in the pool and they took out the starting blocks. We put an individual,
Yeah,
Yes, we did do.
we did participate in the starting block.
Yeah,
So I didn't remember the liner, but that was probably done about the same time. And then we bought the Dactron,
right,
for
school
the swim
boards.
team.
Yeah.
And,
So I guess my question along those lines is how much did we invest then? And so what's our return per
I'll
year?
look that up, but that was under 100,000. That was a modest renovation compared to this.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking that our contribution was in the $60,000 range, but I'll need to look that up.
I'm just not sure I'm comfortable with saying, okay, if it was 8 years ago and it was 100,000, that's 12,000 a year. Boy, what are they gonna want? Are they gonna want 50,000 a year this time around?
Yeah, the liner, so the top two items in yellow and orange are the two different approaches to redoing the pool. So the liner is a temporary, I have no idea, but that's 8 to 10 years out of the pool, more. These are long-term renovations. They're proposing the orange one, the second, the shotcrete. And so in the lower section, it gives a breakdown of how they prioritize the different aspects of the project, renovating the pool with shotcrete, painting. Then the access doors out to the south side, they'd like to open up a rollaway door that right now, if you've been there, particularly when there's a meet or something like that's very crowded, there's a lot of stuff on the decks around the pool. They'd like to be able to wheel that stuff out into a kind of a garage area out the back, and by opening up the doorway, they could do that. So that alone would add a lot of space on the inside. The windows, they'd like to update and replace. There's a ventilation system that's not working very well. They'd like an alarm system to let them know how it's operating. And then I'm not sure exactly when he says tile floors, to what extent. With that small budget line, I think it's just some fixes here and there. It's not a total replacement. And then some additional seating. These would be portable bleachers that would go on the side opposite the permanent bleachers. Once things were moved off, into the garage in the back, then you could have space for a 2 or 3 tier small bleacher section.
Yeah, $5,000 for tile floors. I want them to come to my house too. They're going to make sure. That can't be too much.
No.
Yeah, this is probably just a couple dozen of those little tiny
Yeah.
squares replacing theirs.
One thing that they mentioned is that the current state of the pool is concerning, that they're not going to be able to keep things going. They are constantly running into, it's like when your car gets old enough, you fix one thing and the next thing breaks and the next thing, and it's a nonstop situation. And so, with our swim team, using it very heavily, that's one of the things that we thought you guys might want to weigh in on.
And classes at Mount Harmon.
Oh yeah, class is also at Mount Harmon.
That's,
Classes at Mount Harmon. At home.
the city has made things possible for us that weren't possible.
Yeah.
Also, so.
And I know, like my time when I was swimming, because I've done it for like ever, and when I did my freshman and sophomore year, it was like the way that we ran it, like we can run meets really efficiently, like Carbon can in general, and it's just kind of like the way that we run it and our facility that we have just aren't the same. Like it's just our facility is so far behind. So I feel like if we were able to update everything, then we would like I feel like you'd attract a lot more teams to be able to come here and be able to host more like region and that kind of thing. Like I know we posted it a few times and it's like, we can run it efficiently, but it's like our infrastructure is behind how efficiently we can run it.
Okay, those are the projects. That's a little tedious, but now that you got an overview of them, in future meetings, we'll kind of go off of the questions you have on specific projects. Those that we said we'll bring more information on, we'll have those. We probably won't go line by line through them at the future meetings that we have. So, any questions?
Just a comment of thank you for doing that update of showing us what was completed. That was
And then we'll continue to update you on those 4 remaining projects.
Okay. All right. Well, we do have some items for closed meeting. Personnel only, is that right, Superintendent? Do you have
Yes.
anything else, just personnel? All right, so is there a motion to move to closed meeting for the discussion of the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual?
I'll move.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Okay, roll call vote. Melissa,
Yes.
Steve,
Okay.
Jeff,
Yes.
Lee. So unanimous roll call vote. We will be back. You notice I didn't say right at 5 o'clock. Are there a lot of Who's Jeff?
But, there's no oil for these chairs.
They've always been loud. I don't know if we've done anything.
Man, I've never tried to hold still, but
I've tried to figure out a way to solve the problem and
Yeah.
it's beyond.
guess they keep the oil.
Oh, did he?
Little joint and get it. There's no success.
I tried WD-40.
Yes.
I guess we just have to have a new chair.
That's throughout the building.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, we all stand up and cheer when he walks in.
No, I think you're gonna say adjourned and leave.
Yeah. So I'll move to a
I
different
would wonder
room.
what he missed.
So I'll move to the gym.
About time.
Okay. Darren, would you like to take the court here?
Yeah, we would invite, like to welcome Keith Cox at his first official board meeting, and if you'll come up here, we'll have you read the oath of office, or repeat the oath of office, if you'd raise your right hand.
Can you wait just a second and we'll
Oh, you're off too quick.
And we want you to smile pretty
stop
too.
presenting
Let's
here.
go short, you don't go out there too far, or I'll forget.
Okay, I think we're ready.
Okay, are we ready to go? If you'd repeat after me, I, Keith Cox,
I, Keith Cox,
hereby solemnly swear
hereby solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States of America,
of the United States of
the
America,
Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of Utah, State of Utah,
and that I will perform
and that I will perform
my duties as a member of the Board
my duties as a member of the Board
of Education
of Education
of the Carbon School District
of the Carbon School District
with fidelity.
with fidelity,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, welcome, everybody. It is January 12th, 2021, 5:20 in the afternoon, and we're in our scheduled general session of this Carbon Board meetings. If you all rise and join with us, we will have Hunter lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, and all board members are present, including Hunter, our student board member. We appreciate his input as we go. Okay, I do not have up here any public comment. Darren, do you have a public comment card?
Not received any.
Are we missing any from? Okay, well, let's move on then to recognition. Superintendent will have you lead out.
Yeah, thank you. We are very excited to recognize the marching band and color guard. And we'll just turn the time over to Mr. Sweeney
And Mr. Cunningham.
and Mr. Cunningham too. Thank you for both of you for being here. And we have some pictures, but we'll let you guys explain what's going on.
Well, first off, we would like to thank, 5 years ago, we came to the board and had asked to get going again with a field show marching band at the high school, and had asked for help with uniforms, which we were able to get and do. And since then, we've been going and growing every year and getting more developed and intricate into our shows, and developing with our color guards and just doing well. This year, At state, we placed third in the 3A. A couple of years ago, they changed it so we compete by the High School Activity Association alignments now, which used to not be the case, but we do now. So we're third in 3A. Our percussion sections and our color guard were state runner-ups in their individual categories. And in all of our competitions that we went, all 5 of them were statewide competitions, and we placed in the top 3 in all of those categories. These are some of our main, our leaders. So we have our senior drum major, Diego Mendoza, our junior drum major, Embry Vincent. Our band colonel is Dallin Watson, our lieutenant colonel, Jerry Inglesby, our drumline captain, Connor Bulkley, and then our color guard captains, Emily, I almost got the mix up, Emily, here, and Gabby Hansen. And I really do know you guys.
I was wondering when you were gonna run out of gas as you went along
It's the
here.
masks.
So anyways, they do everything. Once it comes to a competition day, we say, you've got to be here and go there, and they run everything as leaders. They run their sections, they conduct all the music, they lead everything. We just watch. So they really progress. So here's some of the pictures.
Right away. That's my favorite picture, by the way, guys. That really does it justice. So that was state. That was on the field at American Fork High School. And you can see the whole show was just a little too large. We just took snapshots. One thing I do want to point out is we don't have Maria here with us. Maria Rivas is a student at Utah State University Eastern, who graduated from Riverton High School last year and has been involved in color guard for quite some time. And she volunteered to come in and work with our color guard and has done some amazing things, right, ladies? They're competing this year where, I mean, I took them as far as I could take them with my knowledge, and she has just taken them far beyond and done some really great things, from technique to just the ability to really get out there and perform. So it's nice to have a good, full performing color guard that really brings a lot to the show. Not just the musicians, they're amazing too, but the color guard really adds a lot to it.
And there's an example of a benefit we can have from USU Eastern here.
Can you go back to the first 2 pictures? Because they had a close-up. I don't know that I've ever seen the full uniforms up close
There you
with
go.
the plumes and everything.
Yep. This right here is the drum major uniform. So we have 2 of these.
Mhm.
That just makes them stand out a little bit. And then we've done some theme shows lately, so
So
Diego got to be our cowboy.
this year we were Western themed show, and so the bandanas fit well with our theme and with COVID. So.
Twofold. So, and then you can see they're all kind of you see them from the back, they're all black. So it's actually really works well when you do a color change and you have them shift directions. Because you have one sleeve that's white, one sleeve that's blue, and then black on the back. So it works well. We're very happy.
Very good looking.
They are. Best looking band that was there, I'm telling you.
And then they had the uniforms on, right?
Uniforms made it so much better.
And they've really improved over the last few years. It's been more fun to watch.
Yes, it's
So.
definitely developed. So.
Well, we're very proud of our marching band and the color guard, and we sure appreciate all the time and effort you guys put in. I really missed having you over here all summer. So we get a little inkling of how much time and effort you guys put in when you were over here doing all of your practicing, and it's incredible. So we just really appreciate you and also Chris and Adam for your hard work. We know that there's a lot of time invested in this, and the student success is a reflection of your dedication as well. So
It's a lot of fun.
thank you all.
Thank you.
We have
Yeah.
something for all you
Right,
students.
and Mr. Cunningham, the superintendent calling up Chris at the beginning and instead of the big shot. goes to show you how much he represents the marching band at these meetings every month. So he's quite an advocate for the marching band.
You know what?
Month in and month out.
I don't think I can do it without Mr. Sweeney, so it is definitely, I
Kind of
appreciate everything that he does.
It's a side thing for him.
It's just one of those things that I don't think you can do, you can't do with just one person. It's just, it takes a team, and we're fortunate enough to have these guys that are so invested. And we're just really grateful for them. We're excited for next year.
We should be really proud of those trophies. That's awesome.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Someday they'll be able to use those movie cards.
I know. It's open now.
Is it?
Go see Wonder Woman.
I did see Wonder Woman, but I went up to Spanish Fork.
What?
I know you can see it here.
Apparently, none of those people wanted to stay and listen to the audit reports.
Yeah.
Darn it. Doug.
They kept looking at Doug over there and back and forth, and they'd look at their watch and say, okay, let's move on to board member reports now. Hunter?
Oh, boy, me first.
All right, Melissa? Then we'll go back to Hunter.
Oh, no, I'm fine.
Oh, okay.
No.
You carry all kinds of weight.
Yeah, so I was just kind of thinking, like, the last couple of days before this came up, I was like, oh, what am I gonna say? And so I was kind of talking to some different people at school and that kind of thing. And kind of just and I might have mentioned this before, like every conclusion that we drew to is just how kind of status quo everything feels, especially like coming back from Christmas break at this point. Like, I don't know, the masks don't even seem like a factor. Like, it's just like everybody's just wearing them, and it just seems like that's how it is. And it almost feels strange to, like, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but sometimes I see like movies or TV shows where people aren't wearing masks, and I'm like, it just kind of like messes me up in the head for a second. I was like, hey, that's how people were before this. Yeah, it's so weird. Like, everything just seems like it's almost just reached back to like a normal in a sense that isn't normal. So yeah, that's just that's really been going on.
Well, thank you for that input. Young people are generally much more resilient than old people are. So there's great evidence of that. Okay, Melissa.
I still just really appreciate going into the schools and seeing the kids, you know, complying very well. I think the holiday celebrations were kept minimal. I don't know, you know, people, I got a new grandbaby on Christmas Eve morning. So that was.
And you waited this far down your report to announce that?
Yeah, I was gonna send him a picture so he could put it up there.
Yeah.
He's a cutie, cute little baby, Christmas Eve morning. So that was our wonderful Christmas present.
Keith, we gave you a little time to warm up here.
Yeah, but I have no idea. Warmed up to what? I'm just glad to be here and appreciate your patience and grateful to serve on the board, and just look forward to the time ahead.
Okay. All right, we do too. We do too. Jeff?
A little bit of echo from what Hunter had to say, going back into the schools, go back to visit with the schools. The students don't seem to have a problem with it. I did talk to one of the teachers of, I think a first grade class, and he said, you know, you're in school when it's about 15 minutes after the bell rings, school has started, and your first grader comes to you and says, can I get a new mask? This one smells like syrup.
I wouldn't be changing that mask. I'd be licking it the whole time.
There's also a new term that's been developed in elementary schools. It's called, students will say, I had a mask accident. That means that they sneezed in their mask.
I've had taken an opportunity to go and visit some of the schools, and I'm really looking forward to the report on the progress our students have made this year in reading. They seem to be just knocking it out of the park. I don't know if it's what the teachers are doing differently. I don't know if it's the aides are doing something differently. I don't know if it's the program they're using, but we seem to be firing on all cylinders, and we have some high expectations coming from those reports from elementary reading and into the middle school. And then I also wanted to express appreciation to our elementary and secondary supervisors. We've had a bit of an issue, and I think we've kind of talked about it with students who are not doing well when they're on their own. And these two ladies have worked very hard to pare those numbers down and get them back to school. I talked to a dad, and he said his son is so happy to be back in class for a couple of different reasons. He loves his teacher, he loves his friends, he loves going to school, and so he's so happy to be there. So
We're so happy to have him back.
anyway, it's a good job for both of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Lee.
Well, I'm ready for normal, like everybody else.
You're on the other side.
I'll be glad to get rid of the mask.
This is old.
Not ready to get rid of them. But it has been interesting to see how things have changed and how our USBA meetings went. And I think they went very well for what they had. And I'm glad we were still able to have something, because I think you need that every year to kind of start your year off. So I was glad to see that, but that's all I have today.
All right. So I want to go back to our meetings on Saturday.
Friday.
Friday
and
Thursday, Friday. Oh. Last week, Hunter, this is old.
Okay.
And specifically the presentation about board and superintendent relationships. In my experience now, absolutely, in order for a district to be moving forward, the tone, and they mentioned in there that the tone of the district gets set here, and in particular with that relationship between the board and the superintendent. If we're moving together, then the district has more tendency to move together. But if the board and the superintendent are at odds, it's not a secret. And it causes that concern throughout the entire district. The number one problem that comes out between school boards and superintendents is the communication issue that goes back and forth. So and for 14 years now, I put the onus of communication between the board and the superintendent on the superintendent. I thought that's that person's job. You know, they need to be communicating with us, right? And I was perfectly happy with that, except for it hit me in the middle of that presentation that the board bears some responsibility on this communication part between the board and the superintendent. So I have a proposal to put out there to become one of those unwritten rules, so to speak, of the board as far as it communicates with the superintendent. So my thoughts are this, that the well-established guidelines for communication, as the board receives communication from constituents, from the public, from teachers, aides, principals, all of those types of things, the responsibility we have is to not short circuit the authority or that line from the superintendent. So we ought to be taking that information to the superintendent, and not that we then absolve ourselves of that responsibility for the communication, particularly to the public. But now we've gone the right lines, because the superintendent is who answers to us. The principals answer to the superintendent, that type of thing. So I propose that when we have that type of communication, or we have questions that are concerning there, well, let me back up one more time. I've recognized in myself that I'll talk to the superintendent. I have a concern, or I've received a concern. I'll talk to the superintendent about that, and that largely stays between us, and the rest of the board doesn't know anything about what is taken there, which they should. So in order to smooth that out, I propose that when we have those concerns, that an individual board member get that concern to board leadership. Board leadership then takes that to the superintendent, and then the superintendent communicates with all of us about the problem and the action that's going on. And then all board members are aware of what's happening in the district and what's going on. There's more communication from the superintendent coming to us, and there's more communication going back to the superintendent. So we're kind of following the rules or the order that is set up in the organization. Superintendent, your feelings on that, since we're going there, and then let's go down and find out what everybody thinks about that.
Yeah, I really like that a lot. I work with each of you individually, but I do feel sometimes like I ought to be responding to everyone. But I also don't want to, maybe step on somebody's toes if a board member maybe doesn't want me to share it with everybody. But if that was just the way we do business, then that would feel a lot better for me. So I'd like that.
Lee?
I like that idea, yeah.
Jeff?
I don't want any one board member to feel, though, however, they don't have direct access to the superintendent.
That's good.
Right.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And so I guess I would suggest maybe not a modification, but a maturing of the idea to say, if you have a question, if there's superintendent, and it's going to be a quick, hey, here's my question, and he can get back to you, fine. Or we say, here's a question came to me, would you respond back to the whole board? That way it gives him idea, and then it's shared with the full board, but I really don't think to take it to a board member, then it does a couple things. One, it dilutes any urgency or any request that might come from a board member. And then some of those board members might feel like they don't have direct access.
Yeah, each board member needs to have direct access to the superintendent. Lee, you feel that type of modification?
Yeah, because I
is
think
okay?
there are some things that are just small,
Yeah.
little, I might just have, there's been a couple times I've just given him a comment of things that I'm not sure everybody wanted to hear about it. It was just something that,
Yeah.
But I guess you can decide. It wouldn't bother me if he shared it. If I
Yeah.
give him some information and he shared it, that would be fine too.
And that would be, I think it'd be appropriate use your filter to say, I got this question from Jeff, I'm going to share the answer back to the whole board,
Yeah.
and here's what it is.
I like that.
Yeah, it gives you complete authority to be able to do that.
There's several times when I think if Jeff's hearing this question, there's a good chance some of you
Some of
might be
us might
hearing
want
it
to
too,
do.
so it
Yeah.
would be good to send it. So,
Yeah, and I don't think there's a problem with that. Of course, there'd be maybe instances as well where you, like Lee said, it's a question from Lee, you answer back to Lee, and it's not
Yeah,
gonna be a big
right.
thing.
Yeah, unless you don't want to share it, but sometimes it's just a comment or something I've heard else.
Yep.
Keith, you've been on lots of boards. How do you?
So I thought the training was excellent, by the way, so I really loved it, I enjoyed it, I thought there was great points, relationship needs to be there. The only thing I probably want to add, obviously, the board needs to have a relationship with the superintendent. I get that, I think it needs to be individual, but it also needs to be the will of the board to give you direction, as he talked about. The only thing I would say is it's equally important, or I think it's important, that the board itself communicate with each other, meaning we don't have to filter everything through the superintendent. If there's issues or problems or challenges that we have, we as a board collectively or individually can speak with each other and
That's
find out
coming
the
up in the
will.
closed meeting law thing. This being elected, well, I don't know if your primary board would be any different, but
I'm not saying we would meet as a board
But just
to
discussion.
discuss, but basically, if I have a concern, let's say with something, I could call Jeff, or I could call you. And
we
then,
can all, if you call
I
more
can't-
than one other person, then it's a meeting.
no,
And we'd have to advertise it.
I
So
get-
You can call Jeff, but then you can't call Jeff and.
I understand, I get that,
All right.
totally get that, and I'm sure, but I'm just saying, board members need to understand each other as well as
Yeah, there needs to be a
the board needs
And I,
to
you know,
correspond with
if
the
the
superintendent.
information's coming from the superintendent, we have some open communications that can happen here. So that's one of the reasons to use the superintendent, is now it's not board members, we're communicating back to the superintendent here. And there is some, I mean, we need to be careful, we're not having an electronic meeting as we're going, but that opens that up a little bit.
I'm just saying that so we talk about I don't know what you mentioned, like the countenance of the meeting, so to speak.
Mhm.
Well, I've served on boards where the countenance hasn't been very good, meaning everybody comes with their own agenda.
Yeah.
And then we fight over getting our way. Well, that's totally wrong. It's the will of the board. So when I talk about the board, I'm not really talking about me working with Jeff and leaving everybody out because we can't meet together. I'm just talking about the disposition of the board needs to be that they're one and we try for unity and we try to work together as well. That's all I was saying.
We try a lot, but Lee's always a problem.
You know, I'm always fighting.
As you can tell, we don't have that relationship with this board. And the reason is because we make big efforts to make sure that every issue is completely
Did you
vetted.
receive that?
No, I think that's the thing. Everybody needs to have their say and everybody needs to try to understand each other.
And I'm great with the way you said, yeah, just, you know, because there are some things that may be just a quick, you know, hey, what's the story on this? And it isn't really anything anybody else would want to know. But that you use your filter and if you feel like it's something that's probably a bigger issue, you know, the little things we can do, but the bigger things, definitely communicate with us.
So now, Hunter, you see you have a direct voice to the superintendent. You can hear. Any other input, concerns?
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds really good. Like communication and transparency is key, right?
Yeah.
Like when I first came here, that's what you talked to me about. Now, like, I mean, I've never seen any decisions that outside of discussion that it's anything outside of unanimous. So I think like communication is something that's really important, and the rules that are set in place, why you have why you were saying like if you're meeting with more than one person, it's considered a meeting. Like why those rules are in place in order to keep transparency so you're not going behind anybody's back. And so I think just like everybody else has said, keeping things relevant that go to the superintendent to go back to the board, that if it's just something that doesn't really matter and won't affect anybody else, then it can just stay between those two people. But if it's something that actually would pertain to anybody else or be relevant, then
He's a smart kid.
That's that transparency part. That helps prevent the discord among board members when one seems to be, or is discovered seemingly going to the superintendent and trying to prevent the discord. Okay, unwritten order then. We'll kind of proceed with that way. Okay. All right, superintendent, your report.
Okay, great. It's a quick report, but just wanted to let you know about the vaccination process. When we started this school year, we never really thought that we would have to figure out how to become experts in delivering vaccines to people, but here we are, and I think we've developed a pretty good system. We were able to administer 85 people with vaccinations yesterday.
How many vaccinations did we have? Do we have 85?
That's how many were available to us.
Okay, that's,
Yeah.
if we had 100 and only did 85, I would be concerned.
They actually told us 80, but they were able to squeeze 5 more doses out, and so we got 5 more people to come and take care of that.
Sounds like the nation needs to learn from us then, huh?
Maybe, I don't know, but we will have at least 80 more next week. But it depends. The health department receives a different amount each week. So they're hoping that they receive more. If they do, we'll administer more, but hopefully we can keep on track with that. And so we're still working on a date for that. We have a sign-up system now that we've never had before, where people receive the email. I think some of you participated in that. It seemed to work really well. So
Is that the only way we're getting word out to the teachers is through email?
for the most part, yeah, we do expect everybody to be checking their email because it is the most efficient way to get the word out. But we have also, we follow that up by sending the names of the people who have been selected. We send that out to their supervisor. So we ask their supervisor to also try and get in contact with them and make sure that they're checking their email and filling that out. So we try to hit it both ways.
So I get principal and superintendent, supervisor, who's that? I don't
That's
get
the principal.
the principal.
The principal is a supervisor, but we also have, like, Bruce Bean is the transportation supervisor, and we have Heidi works over the food. So she's not a principal, but
So it's typically the principal, but in certain cases, it is the supervisor.
Principal, the
Yes.
department head.
Department head.
Perfect, thank you.
I'm getting using the right words.
Yeah, that's it.
The other thing that I had to share is, this is a draft of a program that we're working on as a district. One of the things that we had talked about with the board earlier was administrative internships, developing future administrators. And we're very interested in making sure that educators who have an interest in becoming administrators have an opportunity to gain some experience, so they can also facilitate, so they can meet their certification requirements. It takes a lot of hours to be able to get your administrative internship, and we want to try to help people to do that, and potentially defer some of the costs associated with obtaining that administrative license. We're contemplating an application process where the internships will be solicited via email to all licensed educators in March. Applications would then be accepted until the end of April, and then interns would be selected from the applicant pool in May, and then an orientation would occur in June. The interns would need to be enrolled in an administrative program or be willing to begin applying for an administrative program early in the internship. Interns will attend a late afternoon professional development meeting monthly, where we'll go over things like special ed law and confidentiality, and a lot of the topics that are important for them to understand. Interns then make arrangements to leave their current position for one day each month prior to professional development meeting, this meeting right here, to visit a school, and we would assign them to a school, and we'd have them shadow the principal and work through administrative tasks with that principal. That does a couple things. It gives them some exposure, but it also gives them some hours that they can put towards their administrative internship program. We would provide some financial support for the interns who are accepted into the program, not to exceed $1,000 per year. That would have to be on a reimbursement only basis, requiring them to obviously pass the class and provide a transcript and a receipt of actual costs. And approved scholarships would be in effect for any class taken during the school year associated with the internship. An intern may be selected for more than 1 year. So somebody could be in that internship program for 2 years, or maybe even 3 years, depending on the situation. So this is all just draft right now, but that's the basic idea behind the program. We just,
Now, this is something that we talked about in our July retreat meeting as far as trying to increase the pool of licensed administrators that we have to work principals positions in the district.
we see it as a pretty small investment, but it could have some pretty big rewards when it comes to, future positions.
So I can see how this works for those who are just going into a program. But I know there's, several teachers, there's several people in the district who already have their admin certificate. Are they going to be able to participate in this
Yeah,
for some
we see
internship?
them as being able to participate for sure. It would just cost us much less. We wouldn't have the $1,000
Right.
commitment, but they would still, what it would cost us is the cost of the substitute for
The
that,
day.
for once a month, which is pretty minimal. So yeah, we definitely see that as a possibility.
So are we looking at then putting a ceiling, a cap on the number of people per year, limiting it to 5, limiting it to 10? What happens if we get 25 teachers who want it all at the same time?
Yeah, I think
And then if
we
do
haven't
put-
really put a number on it. We were kind of wanting to see what kind of application pool we get. We only have 9 schools to spread them out into, so that kind of limits
Right.
us there.
But that was then leads to the next question. So you have 9 schools. If you have more than 9 applicants, how do you pick a limit of 5 or 9 or whatever?
Yeah, so we kind of saw that as, there's a selection process, and so we would have to take the applications and we'd have to take the available spots and say, okay, we'd have to have a team that sat down and looked at them and ranked them and said, these are the ones that fit in.
We were concerned, as we talked also, that there'd be some objective criteria that would be put down there because we were concerned about a good old boy type of experience developing or at least being accused of that out there. So we were concerned about that too. So it'd be interesting to see that there's some objective data in the selection process.
I think we would want to, in my mind, we would approach it just like we would interviews, where we would have criteria that we're looking for, and that would need to be ranked, and we would be able to show documentation of how we made the decision.
But I just remember that there was that concern that we had.
But I think we need to spell some of these things out. For example, if you have a teacher who applies who's maybe on a corrective action plan, does that automatically disqualify them? Well, if it does, we got to put that in there. Need to be, I don't know if you want to say they need to be an exceptional teacher, but they at least need to not have any check marks.
Well, maybe the application could list if, because they're going to be doing application.
Yeah, those kinds of things that we want, at least to minimize as much as possible any subjective nature to the process.
Here's our minimum qualifications. If you don't meet them, okay, we're sorry.
Work to get them. Because we don't want you not to do it. We
That's
want
right.
you to do
We want you to do it.
Okay, great. Yeah, we can address those and like I say, we're pretty early stages, so we can bring that back next month and kind of show you where we're at with those adjustments. And that's it for me.
Okay. Darren, are you the one running this open meeting training?
Yeah, we
I was,
actually are gonna all do this as homework.
okay.
Actually, not all of us, because you 5 are the only ones required to do. But the state auditor's office provides a little 15-minute video and questionnaire, and I think you're familiar with it. And so I've attached the link in here. Also, I'll send it to your emails as well, so you can just go in and click that link. If between now and the next board meeting, you would go through that open meetings training. At the end, it will give you a certificate. If you please email that to me or bring it to the next board meeting and give me a copy, because every year Doug in his office asks me to produce those, to some kind of documentation to show that you received that training.
And it is a yearly thing, because I
It is
just
an
did it,
annual.
I just did it.
No, you get to do it again if you haven't done it in January.
Yeah. We need it
Every
done
calendar
within
year.
each
Each
fiscal
calendar year.
year. Yeah,
That's fine.
and so if you've done it,
Oh, fiscal year?
uh-huh,
Okay, so if you've done it since July 1st, print that out and give it to me.
yeah.
I think I sent it to you, but I'll check it.
Yeah, you did on the last one, so,
Wouldn't hurt me to do it again.
but yeah, it is nice when we're all on the same schedule, because then I can remember to gather them all at once.
Okay.
But yeah, when they come and audit, like the next audit, that fiscal year, they'll look to see that it was done within that
Okay,
12
I'll do
month
it
period.
again. That's fine.
So, the other one is new, and so I guess in the last legislative session, there was some law or something passed that, a bill passed that, touched on audit committee training. And in response to that, the State Board of Education has put together a couple of training modules. One, and this is, there's no certificate, I watched these, and it's just basically that you go on your own and view these, and there's nothing printed afterwards. But the first one is for all board members to watch, and I believe, was that one 15 minutes, or is that the 45-minute one? One of them was like 45 minutes.
Hello, board members.
That one's
That's
41.
41, yeah, so that's the longer of the two. And then the second one is specifically about, for the two board members who are on the audit committee. Now, everyone can go through this one, there's no problem with that, but it's required of the two that are on the audit committee. And that one, did that say about 15 minutes? Was that one shorter? So, again, if you would find time that you could go through those, I guess I'll leave it to Wayne to decide if you want to come back and discuss those points, or, but you're required to view it.
And is there a certificate that,
And I don't see any way to track that you viewed it, so maybe at the
let's
next
just put it in
board
board
meeting, we'll
minutes?
just note in the minutes whether you've done that or not.
Homework.
I will tell you that will also be another audit compliance issue that comes through the state. And as long as it is documented in your board minutes that training has taken place, then that will suffice, because there is not a certificate for that one.
Can we just come sit in your office? Do it? Come on, Doug.
You could, but I'd probably forget.
Okay.
They did a good job with it, but it's hard to not make the topic dry, so it's not exactly exciting.
Okay, and then at-risk definition?
Yeah, we're gonna have Stacy come up and take care of this one for us.
So we have a grant, the EARS grant, which is the enhancement for at-risk students. And this year, it has required that we have a defined, district-defined definition for what at-risk means, and that you approve it in a board meeting, and it's in the minutes over there. So this is actually the definition that has been used for multiple years. This is just the first time they've asked us to have it in the board meeting. So as you can see up there, these 6 factors we have determined could potentially bring a student at risk for academic failure. So low SES, attendance issues,
SES.
social economic status, poverty, basically, yeah. Behavior issues, significant reading or behind in reading, 2 grade levels or more, significantly behind in the basic math skills, and ELL, so your English as a second language type of student. So if they have 2 or more of these indicators, then we feel like these are students that definitely need to be monitored and supported and intervened, And we obviously have in our schools intervention plans, tiered plans of support for all students, but we do find that these are factors that tend to bring some of our students in concerns, so. Any questions or concerns with that definition of at-risk?
So it's just a definition. We don't have to discuss what the details of the plans with tier 1, 2, or 3 intervention.
We just need to be in agreement that we agree that these factors are students that could be at risk for academic failure.
I'll clarify one tiny point. You don't have to approve this definition. It just needs to be in board minutes that you saw it, basically. So. And if you would like to see a change, we're more than happy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is based off the state definition too.
I guess that's where I was going with it, is the state and the people who are going to be funding this grant, they're good with just 2 areas?
Yeah.
Okay, because it seems like 4 and 6 would be totally linked. If you are 6, then probably 80% of the time you are number 4 too.
Right. I would bet that most students that are academically at risk are more than 2.
Yeah, no, I don't, yeah, exactly.
At minimum, these kids should be on our radar and closely watched. And they are. So we good with that?
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to action items. And before we invite our auditor up, every 2 years, we elect new board leadership here. And the leadership we have on the board are the board president and the board vice president. So the floor is open for nominations to the board president.
I move to elect Jeff Richens as board president.
It's been moved to nominate, Jeff Richens has been nominated for board president. Is there a second to the motion?
One second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other nominations? Would someone please move that we close nominations and elect Jeff by acclamation?
So moved.
So moved, okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll
I
second.
know.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, so Jeff, take it away here. I need to do the ceremonial thing here.
Actually, I would like to, we're talking about leadership, make a motion that we finish this meeting out as we've begun it.
Yes.
And we will do, starting,
All right.
whatever the officers end up being, they'll take responsibility in the next meeting.
Okay, you just want me to close the meeting now?
Just, yeah.
All right. Okay, are there nominations for vice president?
I would nominate Lee as the vice president.
It's been moved to nominate Lee as the vice president. Is there a second?
Second.
He just beat me. It's been moved and seconded. Any other nominations?
Move that we close nominations.
It's been moved to close nominations. Is there a second? It's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Lee, congratulations. You won't say there was any conspiracy in that at all. All right. So let's move on then for audit approval. We'll invite our auditor to come up and don't be moving that back over there.
That's board president.
So in your board,
I am officially a hey you.
in your board documents, there is, this file should be available to you there if you want us to open that and follow along with what.
Where?
Was it
In
under?
the administrative, so under the audit,
Oh, it's there. Under approval of audit, it's there.
Mhm. Oh, it's just
Okay,
doesn't have a little,
such
doesn't have a little
We didn't see it on there.
paper
Yeah,
clip.
it's there.
I hope I can stay on the same. presented.
Well, the thing to do is you talk about it, tell us what page you're on, and he'll follow you.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so it'll be up there. That'll be.
Before I get to that, though, I want to, Mr. Heath, thank you for wearing the same mask that I have on.
yeah.
I think you color coordinated yours.
Yeah,
We
we
have-
talked before.
It's interesting. I really am not fond of masks. But one thing I do like about those is we get traditional masks. We get representing schools, we get colorful ones. I really like those. So it's interesting how people have tried to make
There's
this.
a
Did you ever think a
particular board
mask?
member who's a real connoisseur of masks, and she produces them as well, some pretty great patterns.
Yeah, I just donated a whole bunch of kids' masks to the elementary schools, by the way.
Well, I am very impressed with individuals who, in their making of masks and what they wear.
Did you ever think that you would be, like, the masks would be a fashion statement?
And I'm hopeful. that
Michael Jackson.
I don't know, Michael Jackson did it a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you, board members, and appreciate the opportunity to come and review and go over the audit report. I will spend as little time as you'd like, or I'll spend as much as you like. And I know that Keith loves to talk about audits. He's been on a few boards where I'm also on, and Jeff is there as well. So, you know, it's,
You didn't forget that we like them short, right? That's the one thing.
We like audits short.
yes, it's short, but I do remember. But the most important part, page 2 of this audit report. Right at the top of the page is our opinions, and I will read that. It states, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all respects the respective financial position of the government activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of Carbon School District as of June 30th, 2020, and the respective changes in financial position and where applicable cash flows thereof for the year then ended in accordance with county principles generally accepted in the United States of America. And that is an unqualified or a clean opinion, and the work that we perform, and I, at this point in time, just really want to thank Darren and his staff for providing us the opportunity. I guess you provide us the opportunity, but they're very good at working with us and getting us the information. And the unqualified opinion is what is required to be submitted not only to the state auditor's office, but to the state office of education. So you have accomplished that for this past year. On page 4 of the audit report starts the management discussion and analysis. We do have a few financial highlights that are in there for your review. We talk about the total revenues compared to 2020 compared to 2019. There was 4.89% increase. Overall revenue increased by $1,549,254. The next bullet point, the total expenditures, there was about a 5.05% increase in total expenditures during 2020. The overall increase for expenses was $1,588,467. So I won't go through all of that information in the management discussion and analysis, but it's there to help readers try to understand what happened with the school district in hopefully understandable terms. That it's not auditing jargon. It might be information if you're having insomnia to try to help you sleep a little bit better. This audit report is 76 pages long, so it might take you a couple of hours to get through it. I'm sure it would be a top priority for most of you to put that on the list. Let's turn to page 18. The governmental activities statement. This is the balance sheet on page 18. It shows the activity for the general fund, the balance sheet, the capital projects fund. The reason why those two are separated out individually is because they are classified as major funds, which there is calculations that are performed with your overall financial statements to determine what is a major fund. A general fund is always a major fund, but the other funds do not necessarily meet that criteria unless they're over the certain threshold. And then your other governmental funds, I know I'm going to be switching back and forth here, but your other governmental funds start on page 67. No, excuse me. We're not that far back.
Mhm.
59. And your other governmental funds include your debt service, the school lunch fund, the non-K through 12 programs, and the student activity. And so those are combined into the non-major governmental funds. And while we're back there, so we don't have to go completely forward, let's go to the page 60 for the non-major governmental funds. These are the revenues and the expenses associated with each one of those individual funds. And that third figure from the bottom, the debt service fund had an overall increase of $95,674. The school lunch program had a deficit of $45,168. The non-K through 12 programs had a deficit of $42,659. And the student activity fund had an increase of $71,418 for this past year. Any questions on any of those individual funds?
If you scroll just a little bit further, you see that last line is, oh, you've got them both on there. Fund balance beginning of year and then fund balance end of year. So after that, either lost or gained to that program, that's how much each of those individual funds have in their fund balance or savings.
Right. Okay, so let's go clear back to page 20. And we'll see how the general fund and the capital projects fund performed this last year. Total revenues and expenses for the general fund. General fund had a little over $33 million in total revenues, $33 million in expenses, a little over that, but there was $126,837 positive increase to the fund balance. The capital projects fund, it would be really nice, go down just a little bit further on the capital projects fund. It'd be really nice if the capital projects fund had this happen every year. $36,825,907 as a positive increase.
We just need your vote.
I don't think that's gonna happen. We have, at June 30, 2020, there was a substantial amount of bond proceeds that were not spent. So next year, you will see this completely flip-flop.
So just for your information, we're just about to $6 million into that bond project so far.
So we will not be showing bond proceeds for this next year. What we will show is the expenses being paid. So there's no question that you're going to have an under revenue reported for next year.
Do you think we're gonna have all of our bonds paid out all of our expended?
We're not gonna have it all the way.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say,
We'll get it.
But there
we're still
will
gonna have, we're gonna have an intermediate year in there.
Years, yeah.
Well, but there'll still be a big negative
That'll
balance
be a
because we're not
big-
showing
yeah,
sure.
the
So maybe
proceeds of the
it's
bond. Yeah.
20 million in the hole and then
Right.
get the next
Instead of
60 million
33.
in the next fiscal year.
Right.
one report that I think is very good to review and look at, and that is on page 54. So 54 is the budget to actual, and it's a requirement that it is put in the audit report to show the readers and also state auditor's office, if the board provided a budget to authorize the budget and did not exceed, a budget to expend and did not exceed that limit that the general public was able to authorize for the school district to spend. And as you can see on the right-hand side, that most of the categories you were okay with. School districts are required to stay within a total budget for the school district, not particular supporting services, but as you can see on the school administration, that we were 107,452 over. Operation and maintenance of facilities was 337,015 over. But when you're looking at compared in total, the school district was within the total, and you can move from line item to line item. And one thing that we talked to Darren about is just trying to make sure we get presented to the board so where you can move within those individual categories. Because overall, you're fine, but for presentation, how individuals are going to look at this, there could come up some questions on why you were over in some of those individual.
I think like the local sources, state aid versus other local sources, that's where we seem to be the most off in the revenue side, and that's a kind of a classification issue where we classified it as being local sources of the state aid.
And it's interesting to note that the state auditor's office, and I don't know if the state office of education is the same way, but they don't worry about your revenues, whether you're over or under on the revenue side. They are worried about your appropriations, what you are allowed to spend. So that's key, and also just for presentation purposes and for the general public to review that, I think it's good to go back in and review those. And I know here Darren does a very good job, and sometimes as auditors, we come in and find something after the fact, which is too late for those corrections to be made. And sometimes that does happen by our journal entries that we present to Darren to record in the financial statements. Any questions? I have one more item that needs to be discussed.
I have a question just for my own education, because but it has nothing to do with the actual business of the district, I don't think. On page 7, this is some of your background information. See if I can find it now.
It's up there.
When you're talking about governmental activities and you're going down 1, 2, 3, on your net position, so your last group, you have restricted and you have unrestricted. Explain to me what that unrestricted is and why we doubled.
So let's turn, that's a very good question. Let's turn to page 16 in the audit report.
16?
16. So the statement of net position is recorded as if the school district was running as a business. This statement is very different from the fund financial statements. And so because of that, we record the assets. We also record deferred inflows and outflows, which mainly are dealing with pension. There's also taxes receivable that are recorded in this statement that are not recorded in the fund financial statements. If you go down a little bit further, the non-current liabilities that net pension liability, that 9,982,442. I think we've talked about this before. Do you know what that represents? So that is based on other auditors who have audited the URS. This is Carbon School District's net pension obligation that is due at the end of June, not due. That is a potential payout for the district at June 30th. That's the liability that has been created by everybody belonging to the state retirement system.
But that would only come into play if everybody retired this year.
Correct.
Everybody left the district.
If the school district ended June 30th, that would be the liability that would need to be paid in order to true up everything for the state retirement system. Thank goodness you have multiple years to be able to pay that. And this increases and decreases depending on who is retiring, who is receiving benefits, new people that are coming in. There's a lot of things that are entered into that. So if you look at those new liabilities that are entered on this statement, if you go down to the bottom, which is a net position, so the investment in capital assets is, that figure is your assets that we recorded, land, buildings, work in progress, less your debt obligation that you have. That's the 4,906,000. That is a calculated figure. Then everything else comes from the fund financial statements. What is left over for school lunch, non-K through 12, and for lack of a better word, I hate using this word as an auditor, the unrestricted balance is a plug figure. It's what's left over. And so you can see, based on this schedule, that the school district would have a deficit in their net position balance.
If we sold all of our assets, if we received that $9 million bill and we sold all of our assets, we took all of those fund balances, we still need to come up with $5
You're
million.
still at a deficit scenario for the school district.
And is that because we hired a lot of new people or we had a lot of people who retired?
It is because of the additional liabilities that have been entered onto the books. Not because of your hiring and those kind of things.
Okay.
It is the obligations that
So it's,
need to be paid for, and the assets or the cash, and if you sold all of your buildings and everything else, do you have the resources to be able to pay off all of those
So
liabilities?
is this the new bond requirement in there?
No,
The new liability for the bond? Or is it just
So-
liabilities that are on the ground?
The liabilities that are on here that are, so your debt obligations, if you look at your debt obligations due in more than 1 year, the 36,900,000, that includes your new debt that was, you still have some of the cash left, most of the cash, but that is recorded as an obligation of the district. So there's a lot of liabilities that get recorded on here, but for business purposes, if you look at this from a business standpoint, you would see that you're in a deficit if you sold off everything,
Is
at
this-
least for this year.
Has it changed a lot since last year?
It has. If you'll go back to page
It
7,
doubled from last year? Okay.
look at page 7, the one that Jeff was referring to. The unrestricted portion
there you go.
right there. The unrestricted portion was 2.7 million deficit the previous year. It's now up to 5.656. So about a 52% increase. Here again, there's many things that are in this report that are not within your ability to make changes.
So it leads me to a question, and maybe this is for Darren, is what is the percentage that we pay for tier 1 employees to state retirement?
Like 22.5%, something like that.
And tier 2, remember?
We pay the same for both, but they take,
Yeah, they administer differently.
yeah, tier 2, some of the, 10% goes into their retirement, the remainder goes into the overall system to keep the whole
To
system.
take care of the liabilities that,
Take care
yeah,
of the liability.
okay,
Yeah.
about 22 and a half.
You are meeting your required payment obligation. And that is set every year. And as long as you're meeting that, even though you still have that long-range, long-term liability sitting out there, you're meeting your current obligations.
And the URS doesn't allow us to do anything else. We couldn't opt to not meet it. If you're gonna participate in URS, you have to pay the amount that they determine needs to be paid.
When they started doing this, they gave organizations, entities, and I don't know how they did it, they must have had a lot of money to fund this upfront. So they paid their obligation, and when they do this reporting, they do not have any net pension liability on their books. And I know that one organization that did that, it was in the millions of dollars that they provided to the state retirement system. I don't know why.
It's not typical.
No, that is not typical at all, not at all. So a very good question, thank you. Any other questions? Sorry, you've made this meeting into this presentation. Keith is over there just.
I'm good.
Thank goodness we all have masks.
Exactly. I can't tell.
Okay.
There's expressions that are coming that maybe it's a good thing we do have masks on. Page 75, 76, one other item. This is from the work that we performed. There was one item that we found, finding 2020-1, school accounting. We talk a little bit about this every year, how the schools are reporting. We really like what Darren has done, and that is moving much of the school operations here at the school district. I think it's working pretty well.
I think
It's helping with a lot of these concerns that we have had in the past, but we just need to make sure. We did have, particularly one of the schools where, for few reasons, computers crashing, losing information, we did not have adequate information from that particular school, and that's what this finding is all about, is making sure that we, when we come in and perform the audit, that there is adequate documentation and also adequate financial information that we're able to go through and review. And that was one item that met the criteria that we put into the audit report. And on page 76, you can see the district's response, Darren's response that he had for this particular finding. Overall, a very good financial audit. I commend you as the board and Darren and superintendent, doing a very good job with the school district. Any questions?
No, it's that good recommendation.
We'll leave it on that.
All right. Is there a motion to accept the audit report as presented by Schmeenrich and Marcy?
Move to approve the audit from Smith. Marcy.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Doug. Okay, teacher work days plan.
I think the board is already familiar with this. We worked with CCEA on a plan to provide teachers with some support via work days. And the plan that we came up with was that this Friday is a professional development day. We have worked with principals. They are going to keep their portion of the day down to 2 hours, leaving the remainder of the day for teachers to use for their own preparation. And that's a shift from what originally had been planned. It was going to be a full day PD day like normal. So the part that the board needs to approve is I was able to work with the state. They said that they would be able to grant another 2 days of students staying home while teachers do a work day if the board approves that. And the plan that we came up with the CCEA is that on January 25th, if Carbon County is still in the high transmission, don't laugh, it could change.
Yeah, but the numbers are going like this.
No, it's not gonna change. But if it did, some miracle happen, then we wouldn't do this, but chances are we're going to be having a work day on February 8th for the teachers. That would mean no students that day. That would mean that the following day, February 9th, would not be an early out day though. So it would be a regular day. And then on March 19th, that's another legislative day, and we will stick to the 2 hours on that one. But April 12th is the other day that matters to the board as far as approving. So again, if on March 26th, if we're still in high transmission status or level, then we would use April 12th as another work day. So we just need the board to.
So, my question is, why does a high transmission level affect whether or not we're going to do this?
What we talked about
What does
was
it change the teachers' demands
it's
and what they're doing?
it's the number of students that are on quarantine. So if we're on a moderate level, the chances of us having a lot of students on quarantine really goes down.
And I think that's,
So remote learners in your classroom who you're managing, and they're, like, you're managing them online, but you're also managing their parents' emails and helping them get on. And then you're, at the high school level, you're managing all the students' emails and all of that correspondence that needs to happen. It just adds an extra layer of work for the teachers that I really felt like if our transmission goes down, then our workload will feel better. And,
Okay,
and so if there's no need for it,
and
then,
that's how you're going to measure whether.
then I felt like it would be okay to,
But you feel
not
that that's
have-
a legitimate way to measure that? Okay, all
So
right.
there should be a boundary, something to.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there was not a whole lot of that on my head.
That was the only question I had with this.
so,
We
so
talked about.
the association's good with this schedule then?
Yes, we love this schedule. I'll tell you that we planned for January 4th to be a work day. Last year, we made the adaptation in the calendar for January 4th to be a work day for this year. And then we came up with this other stuff afterwards. But January 4th turned out to be the most amazing day ever because it created an actual break for our teachers for Christmas. They didn't have to worry about coming into the school and doing all the prep work that they would have done because they all do it. Every grade level comes in before. We're almost to the end of the quarter. We're almost, so many things. And they were able to really use January 4th as the day that they reset everything. And they got so much work done in the classrooms and they all appreciated it. We got emails, we got thank yous to the administrators. They came back to us and it was a huge deal. Our teachers, and I know you know, but overall, we're just feeling a lot of stress and we've talked about this a lot, but this was a really good compromise. I think that we worked together to figure out how we could help support our teachers throughout the remainder of this year and hope that we get to fall and everything will calm down a little bit, especially now that we've started vaccinations. But anyway, I can't remember what the question was, but hopefully I answered it.
Okay, You know, you did. My second question though is, how do we inform parents?
Yeah, we're going to.
In a very simple way that they can say, okay, school's out or school's in.
It'll be, the 25th is that decision day, January 25th, but to be honest, we have to be able to meet the criteria for 2 weeks in a row. So if we're not meeting the criteria
Sure.
next week, we already know that we're not going to meet the criteria the following week.
Okay.
It's a 14-day.
So we'll know by the end of next week, well, yeah, what is the end of next week? I guess I need to look at the calendar, but, yeah, by the 22nd for sure, we'll know, maybe even sooner. But as soon as we know, we'll be doing a campaign through the whole public. Every parent will receive a text, and we'll just make sure everybody knows, in all kinds of formats. We'll be asking the schools to do that as well, so that the whole community knows that that's going to be a day, and they'll know in enough time to be able to make arrangements.
Could we put it in the newspaper?
Absolutely, yes. We can put it in the newspaper, and yeah, we'll use every outlet that we can, radio, everything.
The PD days are all already on the schedule, so it's.
Yeah, right. It's just those other 2 days.
Right.
You okay? Yep, boss?
I don't know if I'm okay, but
Okay.
if Hunter's okay, we're okay.
Yeah. I'd like to be nominated for Overlord.
So moved. Is it you we blame for this?
Oh, no.
No.
Sweeney's taught me everything I know.
Okay, is there a motion to approve what's being called Teacher Workdays Plan?
I move to approve the teacher workday plan.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? With none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now the fun stuff.
Thank you. And I was gonna say in my 2 seconds, everyone else also is very appreciative of the bonus surprise. That was very nice surprise that, and anyway, thank you so much. I was supposed to say that to you when I was.
That was all Keith, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, policy 214, safety. So this
Okay.
is up for our second reading and approval here.
And I believe we've now addressed the concerns that the board had. But the purpose of this change is to provide we didn't have a place in policy that indicated the responsibilities for supervision of students. And we know that that's something that we did need to spell out. So we adjusted 214.7 to be just the supervision policy. And then we left 214.8 as specific to playground. So the language there puts the responsibility on the principal, but allows the principal to designate teachers or staff to supervise students, who would then be responsible for that duty.
Okay, any further discussion on this policy? We appreciate the work you can see that little policy's had a lot of revisions as we've gone through, but I think we got her nailed. Is there a motion to approve policy 214, safety, as a second and final reading?
I move to approve policy 214, safety, as the second and final reading.
I was second.
And it's been seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I think we're back on the same second reading. We've got Heidi here now. We can really get.
Okay, so with this policy, some of the things that the board wanted to see is an update on the links, and those have been updated, as you can see. We did make some changes to the capitalization of all of those different ones, and I see that we left the A on administrator, so we'll have to go ahead and make that change too. But the main reason we brought
Now,
this to you.
Keith, you know the shoes that you're replacing as far as capitals and.
That was,
Yeah,
this
that's not
was
happening.
Chelsea.
That's what I got on the board for, that's what it is.
You're replacing Kristen, our English teacher.
Yeah.
He didn't go to Carbon High, so.
Still,
If my wife can sit right here and help me with that.
She did go to Carbon.
we'll still have, actually,
No,
oh, we'll still have Chelsea here too.
We're
She
good.
can keep us up on.
Actually, this was Chelsea.
And really the reason we brought it to the board was that there's this paragraph in here that is not required by any laws or anything, that really seemed like it was above and beyond and really unnecessary to have each individual school with their own committee to deal with wellness. Instead, we wanted to use the wellness committee, the district level wellness committee. So that's the purpose for bringing it to you.
And I see the addition to the board committees it's on there now.
Yes.
And it's not a bad committee to be on, by the way, because it's one meeting.
I think it's twice a year.
Well, I only saw one date on there, so we're done.
It's because we already had the first meeting
Oh,
in December,
okay.
so the second meeting is in April. And the board, when we looked at this, you had some questions for Heidi. And just to remind you, what you wanted to find out a little bit about is, sorry, this is 524, right?
The machine.
Fundraising, are the requirements for fundraising still there, and vending machine? And so if we look at those, you were in particular concerned about under fundraiser, the requirement that the school board take on the responsibility for approval of all. And so I'm trying to remember exactly where that was. It says a request submitted by the individual school in writing, and each of those requests will be presented before the Carbon School Board. The concern there was that, if a class wants to sell jerky, after school one day or something, does that really need to come to the school board? I think that was one of the concerns. And then the vending machine, also the same thing, the involvement of the school board in that. So I don't know
Well,
if there's anything any more specific to.
case in point, we saw the other day when Wayne and I were going through the schools, is the high school does Cafe Day or something, whatever you call it.
Cafe Day.
Is that what it's called? Cafe Day. Does that fall under this policy because they sell tickets to people to go in and eat? And I know it's not necessarily a fundraiser, it just kind of offsets some of the cost. But it's food that's not commercially prepared.
And the question was, how much of these two in particular do we have to have the board say? Is that something that the federal guidelines and everything is requiring? Or is that just something that ended up in our policy?
It just ended up in our policy. There's nothing there that says that a board has to approve that.
Move to
The only
strike.
thing- The only thing that it says is that if there are additional ones that are presented to the school district, they have to be approved by the state, my state department. So,
Okay.
Now, what was that? I didn't follow that all the way.
in my stuff, if the additional fundraisers are brought to the school district, they have to go to my state department.
So they're being approved.
If they're.
No kidding.
If they're brought to the school.
Okay.
Oh, so we don't want them to be brought to the school district then.
I think there's,
So we want to put that to the principals?
well, and that's I mean, we also need to make sure that we're not violating, I mean, there are rules regarding both vending machines and fundraisers that require us to make sure that we're not doing it during times that we're serving lunch. And so there are things that we need to make sure we're staying away from. But that's why the approval, I feel like does need to happen. I mean, we need principal approval and we need district approval.
Which we have in our fundraising policy, which is separate from this.
Yeah, so it's already there.
Covered.
So if we strike, starting with if additional exemptions are required, on down, will that cover it?
Right
Not too
here.
far, there. Up, right there.
We did that.
Why don't you, let's go with that last sentence, any competitive food sold as part of the fundraiser, which is not, oh, no, it talks about exemptions.
Well, and it
So we
talks
wanna
about
get
the
rid of
approval of the
exemptions.
state board. Well,
So do we want to leave that last sentence in? Any competitive food sold as part of a fundraiser which is not exempted must meet the competitive food nutrition standards.
So that actually applies to a part that doesn't apply to what you're trying to strike.
Yeah,
out.
so we want to leave that sentence in, right?
I would like to see it stay there
Okay.
just because it will help me
Yeah.
stay in compliance.
There you go. So right there. So that part
He'll
gets.
give you a shield to stand behind?
I have no idea.
Just keep Heidi out of jail, that's it.
Yeah.
And then in vending machines, there's the
Under,
the part that deals with what you were asking about before. I'm trying to remember exactly where that was. in
so
here.
just, under one, just start and strike with each agreement shall be renewed and approved by the school board of
there we go.
education yearly.
There we go.
Can,
Because I think you still have a contract that says the amount of time the vending machine will be in school, contents of the machine and
And
percentage
we
of sales.
already have process of signing
So just
contracts.
take out the one out there that says like.
that does mean though that the business office is going to have to be very specific in making sure that funds are brought, deposited and all those.
But they should already be doing
They
that.
should.
Yeah, you got that
Do we
formatting
need to,
issue right there, right
cross-reference
below
it
it
to that,
again,
or is that?
superintendent.
Yeah, we have a cash receiving policy that talks about the frequency of receiving. Those are all handled at the
Right, I just,
deposits.
where we don't have the annual review, it's got, these guys are just gonna have to be more diligent. Because
Okay,
it
now-
doesn't throw out the reminder.
Those formatting issues still are there.
Yeah, and they, unfortunately, when I try to correct them in this meeting, because I'm tracking changes, it makes it worse. So I will go through, if the policy is approved, then I'll go through and make sure all the formatting is fixed. If I do it here, I found that it makes the problem worse. So, anyway.
Well, that's, the board usually makes things worse.
Used
Isn't
to.
that our job?
Used to.
Used to. The sheriff's in town. Okay. So that was we were concerned about those things. Okay. All right, then, is there a motion to approve Heidi's pet policy, Carbon School District Wellness Policy, FDE,
This is kind of like the Heidi Law.
the Heidi Law,
Oh, no.
nicknamed the Heidi Law, as a second and final reading. With
That
the,
changes.
with the noted changes, including formatting.
I think you just did it, didn't you?
Just say aye. No, just say, so moved.
I move.
So moved.
Almost.
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
Sorry, I was reading something.
Yeah, just hurry before Jeff reads. Any further discussion on the motion? With none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Are you happy, Heidi, or did we blow it here
Yep,
for
that was a lot better this go around, so thank you.
you? We do owe you a little bit. Okay, moving on to board member committees. So we have an ever expanding number of committees here. Thank you, Superintendent. And Darren, of course.
We can delete any of them that you want.
Well, audit committee, which we have to have, and we have to have the wellness committee.
And we only need one person on the wellness committee.
Okay, good. The wellness committee, audit committee, capital projects, which is very, very important, curriculum policy and negotiations. Now, how active, well, we really need to have a curriculum and a policy committee, and we probably ought to be more active than what we have been with those committees.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing a little bit because the negotiations team actually still works on policy. So, but not all policy.
Yeah, so I think the thought process behind the policy committee was a regular review of outdated policies and not necessarily those that need to actively be changed or considered, in addition to those considered during negotiation. But to make sure that we're looking at those that were approved in 1982 and making sure they still are applicable to what we're doing today.
But I think we need to recognize we've been a lot more active in reviewing policies and updating them in the last couple of years than prior.
Yeah.
That's
previous.
So
it
has this,
almost
has
seems
this
like the whole
committee,
board is the policy committee.
Yeah.
so will that committee be effectively be done away with if it needs to come back, it can come back.
That's kind of what I'm looking at.
Okay. Curriculum committee.
No, I think we have to actually approve a couple of things each year. Right, so I think you need some people to go and sit in those meetings.
Okay, so so we are eliminating the policy, but, so we still now have the 5 committees. And it so corresponds, there's 5 of us. So everybody has everybody's got 2 committees they're going to be on, right?
Except you only need one on wellness, he said.
Oh, that's true.
That's true, you only need one.
That's
on
true, and
one.
I think probably we'll let the board president just be on one. If I could,
Nice.
do I have any input
Do you
on
want to
that?
pick yours?
And yeah,
I'll pick mine.
you go ahead, you 2 can pick first, go ahead.
Well, just for Melissa and Keith to have a better understanding, how we've done that is because there would be 2 board members on the majority of those committees. One would be not really a chair, but the lead board member on that one, and then there'd be second chair and the other community service, so that someone is always the lead on one of those committees.
And generally you serve for 2 years on one committee, so there's one change out
Right.
in that committee, so whoever was the chair, who was not, it now is, as far as that goes, so, or lead, I guess. Chair's a good word for it, board chair for that. So, with that, let's dive in. Now, who's been on the negotiations committee this last year?
I was still on it, wasn't
That was Kristen and Lee.
Kristen and Lee, okay. All right, we always probably ought to have a member of leadership on that committee. So which one of you,
You want to do back on that? You know what I mean?
I? I'm fine with
is
that.
that your first year?
Oh, I've been on negotiations several times.
Yeah.
Okay, but so Lee,
That's fine, I can take that.
okay, anybody else want to be on the negotiations committee?
I will.
Okay. All right. We've got that. Audit, let's put Keith on the audit committee.
I have been married for so long, I can take orders, just tell me what to do.
Well, I think he should be on capital projects too, because
Well, that's a new and learning thing for the coming year. Yeah, at least one of you needs to be on that capital projects committee moving forward. But I don't, we talked about the change actually happening though, July 1st.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring that up. I thought
Yeah.
about it, it says, I think we're a little
Yeah,
in the middle of some of this stuff
we can make those assignments now, but let's make the change
at our
at
July
July
1st.
1st. Yeah, at July. Or should we
Lieutenant,
just
you'll make
wait and
note of
assign
that.
these at our July meeting?
Make that
Yeah, we
switch.
can do that.
Should we just wait for our July meeting to make these
We can.
assignments?
Let's do
Let's
that.
do
Just
that.
start
It'd
doing
just
that
be
in July.
easier, yeah.
All right,
Now, that having
oh,
been
except you
said,
want somebody for the wellness one.
yeah.
right, we'll get that part taken care of.
Can we, would you guys mind if somebody volunteers for the wellness this year?
Because that'll take place in April.
It's in April.
4 of us would mind, one of us would be loved
be
to be
great.
happy to be on that
Oh,
committee.
I can do it.
There, see, I told you, let's do one, happy to be on that committee.
So the
April 12th,
negotiations meeting in January, will Melissa attend that since Kristen's not here?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, let's just have you two
All right,
go. So those are the 2 Melissas.
okay.
So who's on wellness? I'm sorry.
Melissa's on
We'll do
wellness.
that.
And that's probably because Jeff and I are on capital projects, we probably ought to see that through until July.
Yeah, but coming in July, then one of us ought to step
Step
off.
off and, yeah, and we'll put
So
someone else.
Lee
on.
and Melissa still on negotiations.
Yeah, we'll leave
Yes.
those there.
What was Kristen's other committee? Was that where Keith could step in?
I thought she was curriculum.
I think she was also.
So, yeah, so step in with curriculum, Keith. Who else was on curriculum?
Is that a spelling thing? My English is getting more better, but I'm not sure I'm ready for that.
Melanie?
As a matter of fact,
Oh, well, that's been done.
was Melanie
I think it was
also?
Melanie and Kristen on curriculum.
Any,
And then no,
any,
yeah. I mean, it was at one point. I
how
don't know
would
if
anybody like to be on
recently.
the curriculum committee here?
I have no problem being on
Yeah, I
2
think
committees.
you'd be great.
I'll be on the
I
curriculum.
think you'd be great with that, to tell you the truth.
Sure.
Particularly with your whole household influences there.
Will you send me a reminder about the
I'll
wellness
send you
meeting?
a
Thank you.
calendar invite.
Thank you.
Okay, and then, so we'll wait till July for the audit committee, because we've already had our audit. And the audit comes in the summer anytime, right?
Right.
And I don't know what in the world the audit committee is gonna do, except for.
I'll watch those videos and you will know.
Put Wayne on the audit committee.
Yeah, I should have jumped in here, because they're getting pretty,
Well,
I
we're gonna
think-
change
I think by
it. Is this,
default,
these are gonna be
Wayne
set
is
in
on
July?
that.
I think you and I are the audit committee.
These are gonna be set in July.
Oh, these are
So-
going to be
so-
set in.
So I'm on the audit committee first, Lee second, so I'll rotate off in July.
Yeah, right.
But like right now, Melissa's gonna go to wellness and then you and Melissa are gonna do negotiations.
Right.
But everything else is gonna be,
But Wade and Jeff, will you still be on capital in July?
no, one of us
Not in July.
One of
Yeah,
us needs to
okay.
come off.
That's what I'm saying, so we're gonna
So
read
that's
that
my question.
anyway.
Do you want
This
to
is
stay
how
on
we'll
cap or
proceed
want me to
until
keep cap?
July.
We'll wait until we get there and
And then
see
maybe
We'll just
you
wait
can-
which one
Yeah.
we want to
In
get.
July.
So we'll proceed this
So
way
we'll
until
just look
July,
at, for
and then
now,
after
we're
we'll see
okay
which
until
one's
July,
set
aren't
for the
we?
new committee.
Yeah, because you've already done the audit, so.
Yeah,
So,
so
yeah,
we'll relook at them.
Can totally be your choice. You know me. I'm like Keith, just tell me where to go.
Let's not make it hard.
Yeah, let's just leave it like that, because we do have everybody set for meetings.
Okay. And then our final action item, superintendent contract renewal. So this was negotiated back in November per our policy. And we would just like to change 6 or 7 minor points. Look, I wasn't, I was, I
Let me
couldn't,
have
I
it.
didn't have enough corner of my eye to actually look and see the reaction. Okay, so, is there a motion to accept or approve the proposed superintendent's employment contract?
I will move to approve the employment contract for the superintendent of Carbon School District, Dr. Lance Hatch.
I'll
It's been
second.
moved and it's been seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Again, this has been why we're late all the time coming out of closed session.
Can I have further discussion now that
You
we
can, you
had a
can.
motion and second? There are a couple of questions we kicked around for both. So the main function of the board is to also set the contract for the superintendent and the business administrator. So there are some questions. We didn't want to do it today because we've already gone through the discussion on this one, but I think Darren, yours is the next one. We probably want to look at some of the language here and see if it's appropriate, see if
Yeah, it's been a while since.
Yeah.
we've distributed things.
So just be aware.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Discussion
that
item I
discussion?
have, just really quick, is just, I love working for Carbon School District. This is an outstanding place to be. We work with amazing people, and we're doing good things. We're on a track to see some really good progress, and to, you know, it's my hope that we become a leader in the state. And I see that happening, and with the kind of people that we have and the direction we're going, that's going to happen. So I just really appreciate the opportunity to keep working.
Thank you.
I missed to second bid.
Melissa.
Me.
Okay.
But I would also like to say that, from a perspective of past employer and then board member, that I really appreciate the work that you do. I think your heart's out there on your sleeve all the time. I think you're working for the students, the employees, and everybody in the district. And I personally would like to thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.
Right, and you know, my encouragement to continue is we as a board really work hard to have a very open, transparent policy in everything that we do. And you fit so well into that, and we appreciate and encourage you to continue to not any of this behind closed door appearance stuff, that it's school district is working together in every form, moving blocks with parents, with community, and with our educators moving forward. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Consent agenda. Are there any concerns with any of the items on the consent agenda?
But we don't, I mean, I'm good.
So he doesn't know if the minutes are accurate anyway, would he?
Yeah, exactly.
These are the ones that if you have any concerns with them, you need to.
I'm good.
Okay.
I do have a question. I just have a question about one of the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth one down on the new hires. You have to be how old in order to be a substitute teacher?
Well, we are, partially due to the scarcity of substitutes, we are allowing 18-year-olds to substitute in elementary school and middle school only.
Okay.
And that's, we actually hire 18-year-olds to be assistant coaches, but for some reason we haven't been allowing them to substitute. And we see the reason for not doing that in a high school setting, but
I think elementary would be fine.
yeah, so that's.
So there
what
is
we've been
kind of
doing.
that stipulation on the younger ones then, the younger one. on there.
Yes, yes,
Nice
and we've set it up in the,
Nice catch.
Good catch.
Well, and I don't honestly know if
It never crossed my mind though.
she's 18 yet, because, but I would assume that that's been checked.
we're requiring 18, but, we're, anyway, what I was gonna say is that we have the ability in our substitute system, our ASOP system, to delegate only certain schools to a
Okay.
substitute, and so that's what we've done.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns with the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion was unanimous. Okay, I think we're to 100.
Oh, boy. Favorite time. I'm motioning that we adjourn the meeting.
All what?
A what?
The all overlord?
Yeah.
Overlord, it was your turn.
Overlord of the board, yeah.
We are adjourned.
Overlord of the board.
Overlord. of
The game is
board.
just barely starting.
You gotta get home and get on that.
They're late.
We can hustle.
So question.
Thank you, Chelsea.